Good morning and welcome to the 2013 Sunday morning event of the finals of the Southern Intercollegiate Rowing Association event for 2013. Casey, yesterday we had wonderful 76 races, I believe, that were heats and semifinals. Today we're into the finals. But if we look at the program, we see finals that are labeled D, C, B, and A. Let's run through that and what that means so people can follow along.
Well, why don't we just turn that around for a little bit and go from the A down. The A final, what everyone is after is to get into the final 6 boats out here. And as you step it down from there, the next level, if you don't get in the top 6 crews, you're in the next level, which is the B final, and then you can take it on down to the C's and D's. So every step is another 6 boats.
But also, I think when we look at it, we've got a D final coming up for the women's varsity 8, the next event. That means there's a lot of depth in that race. You know, in order to have, I guess we're down to 24 top 24 crews. So there's been a lot of programs in each of these events.
Well, that's absolutely true. And you know, in some places don't even get to allow a D final because of time. Yeah, I think we were just looking at Colorado over in lane 2, and then they just had a shot of Miami of Ohio in lane 4. So Murray State, the one that jumped out early on, and by my look here, it looks like Murray State has broken free of the pack. If they can maintain their rate of striking and their distancing here, they're well on the way to winning this D final.
Yeah, Murray State is at 33.5 and leading, as you say, open water, and I'd say open by at least one other additional length. We're getting some video feed there as the launch comes down. We've got a great shot of the bow balls there. This is second and third positions as they come down, and it's pretty tight for that second and third position.
Well, we were talking earlier, Brad, about the different levels of finals, this being the D level final, and after this you'll see the C and then the B, which is called the petite final, and then of course the grand final, the A final. But with these boats out here, these girls are racing as hard as they can. They're out here to win this race. They're out here to beat whoever they're up against, and Murray State doing that job right now and doing a very good job of it.
Yeah, and I think I've got I'm going to say Miami, Ohio. I believe that is them on the outside, lane 5, and on the inside, Colorado. I mean, they're knotted up for second and third. I'd say currently the inside lane or outside lane 4 or 5 is currently in second, and the far lane being third, which is Colorado.
Yeah, it looks like it is Colorado that might have about maybe a quarter boat length on Miami of Ohio, but I see Miami of Ohio now making a move on Colorado, trying to get past them, and I'd say the battles look like they have just done that.
Yeah, and you know, being a D final, that just tells us on the women's varsity 8 how many boats were in the event. Yesterday we ran 76 races, heats in the morning and then semifinals in the afternoon. And because there's a D final, that's telling us that they're placing the top 24. This is you know, a very large field of the 50-plus schools that are here at the Southern Intercollegiate Rowing Association Championships this year.
So 500 meters to go. It is Miami of Ohio for that second place boat by about a deck length. So a hard-fought race going on between the two trailing crews, but certainly Murray State pushing further and further away with each stroke here.
Yeah, and they're really distancing themselves on the other crews. I mean, they've got 3 lengths open water on second place, which is Miami of Ohio. I think on the program it lists 4 crews coming down, but there are only 3 on the water. You can see the red blades of Miami, Ohio, as they go by the spectator area. The shoreline is already filled with fans from parents and coaches, and it's very, very colorful sight as all the tents are set up and people are starting to gather on the shore. You can hear a nice roar of applause as the crews go by the middle 500.
You know, for the Murray State fans out there, to see their crew win by a margin like this is just got to be very satisfying. The parents and the siblings that might be here watching, the coaches, any of the other teammates, to see their crew, you know, good, they got a win under their belts. This is really good for them. Well, and another thing that's really good, U.S. Rowing is allowing us to stream this on YouTube, and if you're catching it on YouTube, this is the first time the Southern Intercollegiate Rowing Championships have done this. And yesterday we had near 77,000 or 7,700 hits on it, so people are watching, and we got some information from Puerto Rico and Washington State. You know, people reaching out to us saying, you know, that they were watching. We had also some from New York and Florida, and I believe we had some from the Midwest as well. Yeah, as we come to this right here, Miami of Ohio in second place as they come right to the line here, finishing up, followed by that Colorado crew in third. You know, in Miami of Ohio, they actually came from behind from Colorado at about 700 meters back. They made that move and then just ended up with a boat length a little bit more there over Colorado. Now, Casey, something I wanted to talk about, you know, we didn't talk yesterday about biorhythms, and that's kind of a big technical word, but, you know, racing on Sunday is not what colleges usually do. I mean, they do all their racing on Saturday, and they go home and rest on Sunday. So this is a different day of racing for a lot of teams. Well, hey, one thing I want to talk, Casey, about was biorhythm, because you know, usually colleges are racing on Saturday, and Sunday is today, and they normally aren't racing on Sunday. So most of the programs that we're seeing races, these are the finals. They raced twice yesterday, and you know, normally on a Sunday they're home resting. So how do you prepare for something like that when you have a different day of racing and you've had a hard day yesterday with 2 races? Well, you know, you've got in the off season, the off race season, when you're not racing on a weekend, a lot of these programs will go out there and they'll do this distance, it's 2,000 meters, 3 times through, and it gets them prepared for doing heats and semifinals and finals, even if it's over a 2-day period. So that's typical for a lot of the programs, is to get 3 times 2,000 meters in on weekends or Saturday doing race preparation. But, you know, and so that's exactly where I was going, is that biorhythm. Your body gets used to doing a certain thing on a certain day. So, you know, you set up early in the week with hard work, and then you start to taper and rest, and then you go into your race situation. But, you know, when you got a 2-day final and 3 races, that's tough on the body. Oh, yeah. Well, you talk about biorhythms. A lot of the coaches will follow a rhythmic pattern of training where, you know, like a sine wave, they'll have some high points to their training. They'll have some areas where they let off, as you call a little bit of tapering. but they time these rhythms, if you will, the best they can to peak on race day, especially the top-end race day. This could be one of them for a lot of these teams.
Yeah, I did talk to some of the coaches around the trailer on Friday afternoon, and a lot of them had gone through their state championship without rest because they were really focusing on this weekend as being the top race of their season.
Well, and yeah, this could be season-ending regatta for a lot of these teams. They may not go on. It may be their, whether the academics are now at a point where they can't go to the next regatta or whatever. But this is a stepping stone for a lot of these crews to whether to move on to a different event, say the Dad Vale up in Philadelphia in a few weeks, or the Accra regatta in Lake Lanier Memorial Day weekend. So let them use this for stepping stones.
Yeah, well, we've got the next race coming down. It is the women's varsity 8C final. So if I get this right, we're C final. That means that this is would be, about 18, 19 through 24? Is that about right?
I think you're right there. And, again, you were talking about the depth of these programs. And here we've got Lane 1, Georgia, Lane 2, William & Mary, Lane 3, Clemson. And the current leader right now in Lane 4 is Rollins College. Lane 5, Tulane, and Lane 6, Louisiana State University.
Yeah, and Rollins has a nice advantage right off. You can see that they have we got the video screen on them. There, you can always recognize them with the yellow blades with the blue tip on the end, and that is Rollins. And you can see that we have about a one-linked advantage in this women's varsity 8C final.
And I'm looking to see who that one-linked advantage is. Is that over Clemson, Brad?
Yeah, I think that is. As the video camera went over there, we've got Lane 2 there right as well in the thick of it. That's William & Mary. And so you saw them as Clemson and William & Mary. Now here you got the picture right there. You got Lane 5.
That's Tulane there coming up.
Yep. So in a little bit of our camera angle, but you can see that we're still in the thick of things here. We're about 1,000 meters into this race, about halfway.
Again, these boats are oriented with the fastest ones centered in the course, so as we scan through the camera angles here, typically you'll see, like in this case, Lane 6 and Lane 1 crossing the 1,000-meter mark, and you can tell from the wakes that are in the camera there are some boats that are out in front there, and you look in the middle of the course right there, you'll see it looks like Clemson, and we don't have Rollins in the picture yet, but definitely the center of the course, Brad.
Yeah, Rollins has increased their striking. They're at the 1,000-meter mark. They've gone up from 33 to 35, so they are trying to make a move here and break away from the rest of the field. They do have an advantage, as we said, about a length on second place, which second place is that Clemson crew right beside them in Lane 3, which is what you would expect in the matrix of how they set up these finals.
Well, also, too, Rollins is one of the an NCAA Division II program, and if you look across the lanes here, it's hard for the Division IIs, Division IIIs, and clubs to get higher up in there because you got some Division Is out here with scholarships.
Yeah, and that's it. It does make a big difference. The recruiting in college level, the size of the programs, and obviously Rollins and Clemson. Yesterday we spoke about, and I want to bring it to the fact that if you won your semifinal, you're going to be in Lane 3 or 4. And as you look, as the cameras will now switch over shortly from the finish line, you're going to see that the Lane 3 and 4 are the leaders. The second place crews yesterday, which were 2 and 5, they're the ones that are fighting for third and fourth. It's exactly the way the matrix would work.
Yeah, and so expectations are being met here as far as how the boats came through the heats. Sometimes you'll see this shift around a little bit because you might have a crew that didn't quite strike it the way they wanted to yesterday, and they recover or fix it today, and you'll see a difference on some of these races.
Yeah, I think that Rollins right now has a good advantage over Clemson, but, Clemson's right there, and it could get pretty exciting here. I don't see Clemson being challenged by a third-place crew, but Rollins could get challenged by that Clemson crew.
Oh, I think that Clemson crew is challenging right now.
I've got Clemson at 33.5, so they've got a lot of room to go.
Rollins a little bit higher, aren't they?
Yeah, and here we are at 250 meters, and Clemson only down by about 2/3 of a length.
Well, I've got Rollins at 37.5, so a big difference in rating here. If Clemson's got some energy left and they can run that rating up, you could see a big move here at the end with Rollins. Not a lot of room to go, but Rollins still has it, less than 250 meters.
Yeah, and Clemson's still holding that 34, and they're rowing very well. This is a women's varsity event, and it shows the quality here. And look at Clemson
Clemson's
go.
moving.
Clemson
Clemson's
is
moving.
really moving. They probably are the fastest one in the water right now. Look at, they're drawing even, and I think they're going to go through. They've got a great move here.
Still 33.5 on Clemson.
And they are just rowing long and strong. They have not taken it up yet, so if they have a little bit left on the rating, they're going to really finish strong here. Here they go. Clemson.
And it is Clemson that has come through in that last 250 meters.
Wow, that's some great confidence in their boat that they can sit back and be behind in second place the whole way, and look at how they're going to finish. They just had a great sprint with solid rowing. They didn't really have to elevate it much in order to make that happen.
Well, you know, we talk about coxswains here, Brad, and that coxswain, I'm sure, when she noticed that their crew started to gain a little bit of ground, she probably built that into her motivation with the team so they could capitalize on that.
LSU coming across the line, Tulane coming across. And on the outside, Georgia finishing up sixth here as they cross the line in this 2013 SIRA Championships. What a wonderful day, Casey. I mean, the water is glassy. The wind is almost non-existent.
It's supposed to be one of those picture-perfect days here. I think they're talking high 60s and low winds. I mean, you couldn't do better for a rowing regatta.
Now, something we were talking about while we're waiting for this next race to come down, you know, we were talking about biorhythm, and you know, these crews put a lot out on the line yesterday. We saw crews sprinting up into 44. That takes a toll. We saw races that were really, really tight, and we're going to have some tremendous race moments, I think, today. I guess my question is, how do you prepare after an exhausting day and being ready to go again today?
Well, you know, this is an endurance sport. It has a lot of power associated with it, but it's also an endurance sport, so you have to rehydrate usually and recover your carbos within 30 minutes of getting off the water or something like this. So, you know, the coaches who are right on top of things, as soon as they get in, they want to get something in that the athlete's body right away to help them recover and start that recovery. Some programs use the ice baths for the legs, because the legs usually will get, you know, they'll get lactic acid. You want to try and move that lactic acid out so the legs recover quickly for the next day. So food, hydration, recovery drinks, or whatever you want. Coaches have their little menus, if you will.
Yeah, it's something that's kind of new. I mean, when you and I were rowing, and I don't know if, when I was coaching, I was very aware of it, but getting the athlete to really do it. But some programs have nutritionists now where they actually sit down and they actually, talk about diet and what you should eat and how to rehydrate and how to eat correctly. You know, 19-year-old, a lot of times they aren't that interested in what they eat, or they don't think about that for racing, but a lot of programs are really into what do you eat, and you are what you eat.
Well, it's not just the programs, Brad, it's the individuals now. There's so much awareness these days about what's going on with the American diets, and these athletes should be highly tuned in, not just from the nutritionists coming in, but from their own awareness out here and making sure they're eating the right things and educating themselves about that. And actually, the Internet's probably helped a tremendous amount on that, because we didn't have that.
Yeah, I think that's true. You know, it has been a great change in our sport, and probably all sports. We've become very aware, and it's on the TV, it's on the internet, it's everywhere. How to eat correctly. But when you're racing like this, you've got to recover quickly from yesterday's events, and you're seeing that this is it. These are the finals, so you're going to lay it all out, and you got to be ready.
I just realized, Brad, that we are educating the youth of this country in proper eating habits. And all these athletes out here, these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of athletes, both men and women, are going to pass what they've learned on being in shape and eating correctly and all to others out there. So I think we're going to turn the corner here in this country as far as how everyone views what's happened with nutrition here.
Yeah, we've got over 50 programs that competed yesterday to get to today, and we're going to go on the video now, and we're going to look at the men's varsity 8, the D final. We've got Duke in lane 1, Dayton in lane 2, Clemson is the center lane 3, UT Knoxville lane 4, Ohio University lane 5, and closest to the camera, Miami of Ohio in lane 6.
Now, each of these ones you just named here, these are all club programs, meaning they're not funded by their athletic departments. They're funded by the student athletes. They're funded by fundraisers. You know, if they're, I won't say car washes, but you can utilize that as a way to figure it out. But it's not an inexpensive sport, and so these kids work hard to raise the funds for their equipment, for their travel, for their uniforms, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it is. There is quite a disparity between what we're going to see here as far as funding is concerned. You've got some Division I programs that have as many as 20 scholarships in their schools. They've got that nutritionist. They've got brand new trailers loaded with brand new equipment. And then you've got clubs where kids are actually paying dues to put gas in the vans to get here.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to this race. We just had a shot there. That's Miami, Ohio, right in front of us here in lane 6, closest to the camera. And we have a launch that follows alongside those wondering how we're doing this. Wakeless launch with camera on board to give us these shots here. And as we pan up towards the leaders, you can see we're looking up there again towards the center of the course where Clemson and UT Knoxville would be. We'll see if we can get the leader here on our screen or pick them out. But there you go. I believe it is UT Knoxville or Clemson in that lane 3 or 4. Brad, can you tell? It looks to me like it's going to be Knoxville in lane 4.
Well, I've got that Knoxville crew, as I count over from the lane 6.
Actually, it's lane 3, isn't it?
Lane 3, Clemson is the leader, and they've got open water on the field. What's really going to be fun is what's going to happen on second place. We got second and third, which is that Knoxville crew you spoke about, and Ohio University.
Yeah, Ohio University's
right
up there.
Beside each other, and, and not far back we got Dayton on over in lane 2 that's battling for that 4th position currently, but it could tighten up here as we get closer to about 750 meters to go in this race.
Well, Brad, usually a lot of coaches feel that if you can gain the advantage or gain the lead, your top 3 crews will usually show themselves by the 1,000-meter mark, but that's not always true, is it?
No, well, we just saw it in the previous race, didn't we? Rollins out in front early in that previous race, and they sit down and look at the video now as we've got, this is tightening up. This is what's happening in position 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, lane. That's Ohio University and Knoxville there. Looks like Ohio University in lane 5 is pushing up into the bow area of UT Knoxville.
Yeah, and that
you can see in the far boat over there too.
That's Dayton on the far side, way out from the can. That's Dayton. That's in 4th position. You've got that Knoxville and Ohio in 2nd, and I'd say Knoxville 3rd.
What about that Clemson crew? Aren't they the ones with those fine checkered oars?
Yep, they are, and that's the leader there. That's the leader out there in lane 3.
Clemson getting challenged here for those that 2nd and 3rd.
Yeah, I think this is going to be fun. That 2nd, 3rd, 4th. Now, I'm not taking anything away from Clemson because they're out in front currently. But what's happening here is Knoxville and Ohio are challenging each other. Dayton is right there in 4th. But what they're doing is because they're all challenging each other, they're closing the gap on Clemson.
Look at the open water here, Brad. This was indicative of the previous race out here where that one lead crew. We got a little steering going, it looks like, there in lane 4, Brad. Looks like they did a little bit of wobble there on their steering.
Yeah, look at how they're still strong. You look at the Knoxville in lane 4, really striking the water strongly, and they're taking the advantage over Ohio University in lane 5.
Yeah.
Dayton still is coming up on that lane 2 outside. They could come past Ohio, so you got to be careful. Ohio's getting run down here.
Well, here comes lane 3 coming into the final finish line, doing a very clean job. Look at the even splashes coming off the blades. They're rowing extremely well.
Yeah, good-looking crew from Clemson. But here we go, Casey. Look at this as it comes in here. That's
Knoxville and Ohio U.
Yep, and Knoxville is holding on to that 2nd place, and they've elevated their rate of striking. And look, nicely done. Ohio recovered from that challenge on the outside. Lane 2 coming across the line in 4th. That's Dayton in lane 2. Rounding out, we've got Duke coming across the line in 5th. Unofficially, and the last crew across the line will be Miami of Ohio.
Brad, this next race coming up, this is the men's varsity 8, the C level final. This is the teams that are in place number
13 through 18.
13 through 18, right? And we will, the camera crew that has to go back up to the starting line takes a little while for the launch to get back up there, so we may be trying to give some play-by-play on this, or stroke by stroke,
right? Right.
Without the video. But we're gonna see if we can get some video in here a little bit. But if not, we'll call it as we see it. But Colorado in lane 1, and Kansas State in lane 2, Washington University lane 3, Wichita State lane 4, Tulane in lane 5, and Louisiana State University in lane 6.
Yeah, and this is going to be a fun race. You know, as our matrix we talked about, Washington University and Wichita State yesterday, they each had really nice races to win their semifinal, or let me say place into this C final. Again, when you're getting a C final, you're saying that we had a lot of varsity 8s that came down the course, and this is the placement of 13 through 18.
Well, here they come, Brad. I mean, they're probably right at the 500-meter mark now. It's still 1,500 meters to go, just about a mile left to go. So looking down the course, you can't discern from a mile away too many things. But, again, we always look towards the middle, and that would be first sight would be seeing what Washington University is doing in Wichita State. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely, and I think they are out in front a little bit. Wichita State, a little bit lighter colored uniforms, telling me that, you know, I've got to be careful about perception. I'd call Washington University in the dark uniforms in lane 3 as a slight advantage over Wichita at this moment. How's that for guessing? Can't see it. All right, thank you.
Well, no doubt, looking at this, lane 3, Washington University has pulled well ahead of Kansas State in lane 2. You can tell by the angles as we're observing from this area, but I'm also looking at Wichita State. Wichita State looks like they are heading right up level, if not maybe even a slight edge on Washington University there.
Yeah, the crews are rowing relatively low rating at this point. I've got them at 32-ish, so they're really not pushing too hard yet. But again, what we've got, in my opinion, is Wichita and Washington U with Tulane on lane 5 hanging in there pretty well in third place.
Tulane at I'm getting them about 35.5, 36. Now they're back just a little bit, but they're giving them a run for the money in the first half of the race here.
Yeah, and the crews now in the center of the course, Wichita got them at 35, so they've come up as they've gotten to the 1,000-meter mark. Wichita has increased its rate of striking from the 32 I mentioned ago, and I think Tulane probably was out there trying to give them a run and had a higher rating early on, trying to hang in there first 1,000.
Well, that'd be a strategy they would use out there too. If they're going to try and hang on to the coattails of these ones in the middle here, they're going to keep that rating up as long as they can, see if they can do some damage out there. But you know, this is still very close. I'd still call it though. I think Wichita State has a little bit of an edge here, don't you?
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, what I'm keep getting is Washington is keeping their rating down. Wichita is attacking at 35, and I've got Washington a lower rating. So I think there's some room there, Washington. I think they, you know, in this last 750 meters, we're going to have a fun race for that first and second position. But look on the outside now. I got Kansas State seeming to come back. You know, they're coming up very strongly, I thought. Is that true, or am I missing that?
Well, I'm actually looking at lane 1 out there, Colorado. Looks like they've passed Kansas State out there, so lane 1 has come up. But your leader, you know, you were talking about before in lane 3, Washington University. I think Washington University has now used that length, and you can see the blades going to the water pretty nicely there. I think they have actually come through Wichita State at this point. And your next crew, Tulane still holding in there, still trying to hang on to the coattails, but look over there at lane 1 in Colorado as they move through lane 2 and lane 6.
Yeah, and I do have Washington at a 33, so they've come up a little bit, but they are rowing really long and holding off Wichita State, which is at a 35. So, you know, it's going to be an interesting thing. Wichita having to row 2 beats higher to stay up with, let me say, Washington. And if Washington has another gear, they could really secure a position here.
This is still too close to call, although I'm going to throw it a little bit towards Washington University at this point.
Yeah, Washington making a move right now. They've increased their rate of striking, and they've really sharpened their blade work. They were a little bit, I'm going to say, a little bit missing as they were going there, but University of Washington doing a nice job here in the last 200 meters.
Now we've got this on the camera from the finish line tower now. They're shooting Washington University right now. You can see them coming through, and the angles are always a little bit different here, but I'd say it is Washington University that's going to pull it through here, Brad.
Yep, they've increased their rate of striking now to 35.5, and sharpened themselves in the last 500 meters, and that's making a difference.
Look how much Colorado's coming up over there in lane 1. They've really made their inroads into that leading group there.
Yep. Tulane doing a very nice job staying in there, and they've had a high rating all the way, and they're continuing to do so. Tulane coming across right with.
Yeah, looks like Tulane may have nipped
Kansas State.
Yeah, may have nipped Kansas State. Might have been a foot there.
Yeah, it was really close. Finishing up here in lane 6 is LSU. They'll be coming across the line in 6th position here shortly.
Now, as LSU crosses the line here, we finish up this race of the men's varsity 8. Again, that was a C final. We have our first A level, our first grand final of the day, and that is the men's novice lightweight 4, and that is with coxswain. So you'll have the coxswain sitting up in the bow of the boat. You might see one in the stern of the boat, but these are the guys that are 155 pounds, 160 pounds, and they have to make weight in order to come here or in order to be in this race.
Yeah, and it's exciting. I always look at the lightweight rowing as being equally matched because they are all 160 pounds or less, versus sometimes you have programs where they're 200-pound athletes going against 180. So these guys are all equally matched. It really comes down to technique and talent and conditioning rather than size.
Well, yes and no. When you say lightweight, they can't weigh more than 155, 160 pounds, but some of these guys might weigh 120 pounds. And so in lightweight rowing, if you get natural lightweights that are sitting right at that weight limit, they usually will be able to have an advantage over a crew that might be 10, 15 pounds lighter because, once that size is capped, you only get so big.
Well, and I'm always amazed every year when I look at the weigh-ins at lightweights, on some of the guys are 6'1", 6'2", and they're still able to stay under the 160 pounds, 6'3". I've seen some really lanky lightweights that are just enormous for their weight.
Well, Brad, if I recall you way back in the day, even at 6'4" or 5", someone would have thought maybe we could have been lightweights, right? Oh, look at this race coming up here.
That's exactly what we were talking about, right?
Oh, yeah.
Equal
We've got
racing.
Bows across here. Bows across is we're at this novice lightweight 4. Even body weights, even racing. These bows, you can't tell anybody apart this time. Lane 6, lane 5, lane 4, and I can't see the outside. It looks like lane 3 out there, which would be Purdue in 6, High Point in 5, UNC in 4, and William and Mary in 3. I'd say those 3 boats in the middle there, William and Mary, UNC and High Point, and Purdue. I see Purdue back just a little bit there. Can't quite see their bow.
Yeah,
There's Purdue's bow.
We've got the U.S. rowing launch was able to go all the way to the starting line this time, so we're really getting coverage really from the start all the way to the finish with the video streaming. So this is exciting to see them coming off the line.
Yeah, it looks like William and Mary has that bow out in front of the other boats there. You have lane 4 UNC and lane 5 High Point actually had some really good racing yesterday. But William and Mary showing that early speed in these lightweight 4s.
Yeah, and you watch these bows sawing through the water and some of them not sawing. And when we looked at the 500-meter mark going by, the difference that I saw, William and Mary's boat was very steady going through the water. This lane 4 and 5, a little bit of sawing, which is that check we talked about yesterday, where the boat is actually slowing as they enter the water with the oar. William and Mary doing a little bit better, and you can see that they're now got a 1-length advantage in lane 3. That's William and Mary.
Well, I just got High Point at about 37 strokes a minute, which is not out of the range, but again, these are novices. That's a pretty high rate for novice rowing.
Yeah, and what's exciting, though, is lightweights always tend to seem to rate a little bit higher than some of their counterpart heavyweights.
But right now I've got 3 bows across looking for that second. That's High Point as well as UNC, and I think now Clemson in lane 2 could be the other one. I think William and Mary has pulled out a little bit, but you got 3 bows all within a few feet of each other as they're going through those buoys.
It's really fun racing, especially when you're on the inside, because there, as we talked about yesterday, there's a lot of sound coming out of these boats. You've got oars rolling up, you've got the striking of the water with the blade, and you've got the breathing. You can almost hear the heartbeats of each of them. The coxswain, they've got a great shot of that coxswain laying down in the bow there, and she or he is in charge of this, and they're at the helm. We've got the coxswain one boat over, a little bit more wrecked there as their head's a little bit higher there, but you know they are driving the boat, they are driving the mentality of what's going on, and they're running a race plan for these crews.
Well, I think Clemson just, I want to say Clemson just made a little bit of move. They kind of went out of our screen there, and but again, it's the camera angle that you have to be aware of. So it appears that Clemson has pulled out on that group, but it was William and Mary that's out in front there.
Yeah, I can see William and Mary now. You know, as we said before, they have open water on the rest of the field. What I see from here, we've got High Point and really probably in second with the UNC and Clemson, I'm going to say right there as well.
I get William and Mary about 34 and a half strokes a minute as they're leading this field here by open water. We had some ratings earlier on of High Point around 37 strokes a minute. That's bow number 5. You see it on your screen right now. Still just a little bit ahead of lane 4 UNC.
Yeah, and these crews generally, lightweights, I always have found that they row a little bit higher rating than some of their counterparts. And so, you know, we saw 37 earlier. Now they're on 35. And, you know, as they get into the finish or the 1,000-meter mark here, I expect to, you know, get a little bit of tightening up as they do their mid-course sprints.
So at this time, it's William and Mary and Clemson in that order, followed by a very, very tight race with UNC and High Point. The 2 outside crews, Murray stayed over in lane 1 and Purdue in lane 6 closest to the camera. You know, Purdue doesn't look out of it for certainly the trailing type of the crews that are trailing a little bit. They still could move up here if they've got some second half speed to themselves.
Yeah, I think, you know, Clemson is in there. You know, they're outside there going at a 33 and a half. There's got a lot of room to go. They're currently in about 4th position, but you know, I don't count them out. They're not that far back on 3rd. But High Point and Purdue really knotted up there on the outside lanes.
Just watching these crews come down, just swinging and tapping that boat along, keeping it moving, trying to keep the boat from slowing down between strokes. As that's the efficiency that comes in here. And again, these guys are all about the same weight. So why is one crew faster than another? Well, they may have a better efficiency in the water. They may have a better movement in the recovery or when the oars are out of the water, because the boat's still moving when the oars are out.
I've got High Point at a 38, and that's pretty early to be going up at that rate. But, you know, if High Point's doing that, they're trying to make something happen here. They are, I'm going to say, tied for 2nd, 3rd, and High Point's really trying to make a change here.
Well, you know, we caught them earlier back before the 500-meter mark at about 37, so they've been carrying a higher rating here the whole time. But look at William and Mary just out there, what, 3 or 4 boat links, maybe 5 boat links out on the field, on the main field. But Clemson is the one that's closest to them, and Clemson has a couple of open water boat links as well.
Yeah, and as I look out, I agree that we got William and Mary out in front, High Point probably 2nd. But we jump over to the other side. We've got Clemson challenging for 2nd and may go through that High Point crew.
Oh, I think we're at that 250 mark. I think High Point's got this in control. I mean, William and Mary's got this in control, but you got a good race for that 3rd position here between UNC in lane 4, and actually it looks like High Point's pulling out with that higher stroke rating, that 37, 38 stroke a minute on Purdue and UNC.
Yeah, and look at Clemson here. Currently, I'm going to say 2nd place on that lane 2. They're at a rate of striking of 35 and a half. And I think they're doing well, and they should secure that spot. But look at the challenges coming up here.
Well, here goes William and Mary across the line with about 4 boat links open water. Yeah. And Clemson almost the same kind of spacing back to the rest of the field. But High Point here, driving hard, trying to hold on to that 3rd position. Purdue coming up.
Yeah, Purdue really trying to close on it, but
Purdue in that yellow boat.
Yep, and High Point has held on with a high rating the whole way. That's been a hard work for them all the way.
Look at it. Look at High Point. They're giving everyone kudos out there as they held off the challenges from those two other crews.
Yeah, and Murray State now coming across the line, currently in 6th. As we look out at the cool-down area, you can see that the athletes are very expended. This is their final, and there were high fives going. High Point really excited about being in the medals, and they came across the line 3rd. Clemson unofficially was 2nd, and William & Mary just absolutely a great show all the way.
So that was a run for the medals there, Brad. So William & Mary, the gold medalist here in the men's novice lightweight 4, and silver medalist Clemson University. And again, these would be unofficial, but I think that was fairly clear unless the referees call something differently. And High Point in 3rd.
Yeah, obviously this is the A final. This is the top 6 in their program. These are novices. So, you're talking about young athletes, and they're at the Southern Championship, and I think you and I have been there, both as athletes and as coaches. It's a really big day for them to win this race.
Well, you know what they get besides medals, don't you?
They get a big trophy.
Well, you get shirts.
And you get shirts. Well, and if, nice field, they should have a lot of nice shirts to wear around town when they get back home. Those
shirts, you don't usually wear your medal around town other than maybe at the regatta site. But after that, you wear your competitors' shirts with pride because they walk up to you, shake your hand, say good race, hand you their shirt, what we call a betting shirt. And it's got the school logo and the colors of the crew crossed oars on there, and that is a source of pride for every rower.
Yeah, I think it's two-sided. One, it's really cool to see the other team being shown in pride by the winner that they've won and beat another program. But number 2, you also get some great things. How many shirts do you still in your closet?
More than my wife wants to admit. She keeps telling me she's going to threaten to throw them all out, and I have to hide them so she won't do that.
Yeah, I got a closet full of them as well. So but they are a long-standing trophy that we never let go of.
Some of the times I've seen people take their bedding shirts later on and make bed. Like a bedspread out of it.
Yeah, like quilts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I did was some of ours is we took them down to the rowing center and we hung them up from the ceiling all around all the different schools. And it's just nice to see what schools that you were competing with over the years.
Well, we've got another race coming down here. This is the women's novice 4, the petite final. We call it the B final, but it's petite final. They're probably right about the 500-meter mark. And in lane 1, we have Tulane. That's outside, away from the camera. In lane 2, Miami of Ohio. In lane 3, University of Tampa. In lane 4, Purdue again, and lane 5, the Clemson Rowing Club out of Clemson, South Carolina, and lane 6, University of Georgia.
Yeah, and just make sure that everybody, if they're tuning in, the petite final or B final is the second final of this event. Would be placing 7 through 12 in their order, as so that when they go away from this regatta, they can say we finished 9th in the SIRA.
Well, in these B finals and A finals, they're only a few minutes apart, like 7 minutes apart. So if you turn a really good time here in the petite final, say you win the petite final, you have a good comparison on how you would do against the A final. Of course, it's not head-to-head, but it's always nice to see if you got a time that would have put you in the A final.
Absolutely true. I can see right now that the center lanes again, Tampa in the red, easy to pick out from this video that we got coming in. You can see that on the right side of center, the red crew, that's Tampa. They are out in front with Purdue, but Purdue is being second. Tampa leading this B final of the novice women's 4.
Well, I'm looking at lane 2 there, Miami of Ohio. I see Tampa out there in lane 3, but looking back there, I see Miami, Ohio is also being one of the challengers for this top 3 here. But look all the way over in lane 6 as well, Georgia too. This is a lot more of an even race. It's not so much of the middle course other than Tampa, but there's some good crews this first half.
Yeah, I think this is going to be fun. you know, we find a lot of parity now in today's racing because these are the finals. We've got some of the best racing today, and you know, you're going to have some tight racing. I think second, third, fourth is going to be really a challenging race to finish in second or third here because there's a lot of heat closing up behind Tampa.
What do you think about that? I'm looking at that lane 2, Miami, Ohio, doing a nice job there. They may be in second, but again, I'm going to look at Purdue. Looks like it would be a good challenge for the second place position right now.
Yeah, I think Purdue is in second, and we've got third being exactly what you said. Miami of Ohio, and maybe third with the lane 6 Georgia right there as well.
Got any rates on them? See what we got here?
I got Tampa at 31, so they're comfortable out there. But I wouldn't be too comfortable because Purdue, we saw them be pretty strong yesterday. They're currently second, but you know, I think Miami of Ohio is one to watch out there. You know, they're starting to challenge Purdue, I think.
Well, they're also at 30-31, so low rates on these two boats we've gotten ratings on. Let's see if we can catch one on Purdue.
I've got Georgia at 34, so they're the highest of the field right there in lane 6, another red-shirted crew. Tampa feeling, I think, pressure now from Purdue. Tampa was open water, and I'd say they're closed up to just one length.
Well, Purdue at 34, Tampa at 31. Sometimes that stroke rating can start eating up those inches or feet or hopefully yards.
I've got Tampa still fairly low. Purdue starting to use up some real estate.
Brad, we've got some other things going on. We got an A final going on here, and I believe that's what our cameras are showing right now. This would be the A level final, the women's novice 4. It is going at the same time we have this B level final coming down for the last 250 meters. We will pull back into this B final in just a second, but the camera now showing all 6 boats here across in the first 500 meters. You're seeing lanes 2 out there. Could be Liberty University that could have that early lead, but I wouldn't even want to predict that yet. Lanes 3 and 4 are Florida State and Georgia Tech also in the hunt here. Over in far lane 1 on the grand final of the women's novice 4 is Central Oklahoma. Lane 5, William and Mary. In lane 6, Virginia Commonwealth University. But as we're going down here at about 200 meters to go in the B final here, back to the B final, it is University of Tampa with the lead.
Yeah, University of Tampa's got a lead, but look what's happening in second place here. We've got a Miami of Ohio on the outside. That's lane 2, and Purdue on the inside in lane 4. And Miami of Ohio, which has been currently all the way fourth, all the way, has pulled into second.
Yeah.
In front of Purdue, so they have really been confident. They're rowing very well. Look at how nicely University of Miami
I think this is bow to bow. I think Miami of Ohio and Purdue is bow ball to bow ball. Look at them. They're hitting those buoy lines. They cross at exactly the same time.
Yep.
Miami of Ohio with maybe an edge.
A little bit, and Miami of Ohio is doing a nice job across the line second, Purdue third. And unofficially, we've got Georgia coming across fourth.
All right. Very, very good. As we see our last couple of crews coming to the line here, we do have lane 1 out there. Tulane still making their way down the course, just giving it all they have. And we're going to jump back to that women's novice for a final.
Okay, so lane 1, Central Oklahoma. That's on the outside farthest from the camera. Liberty in lane 2. Florida State in the center of the course. Watch them. And University of Georgia Tech in lane 4. William and Mary lane 5, and VCU in lane 6.
Looking at the camera here, Brad, we've got we're seeing the bow number of lane 5, but look at the 2 boats behind them. That's Georgia Tech and Florida State. I would say Florida State could have the edge here. Again, we're seeing a slight angle to the boats. I cannot see the near the far lane VCU. Excuse me, they're the near lane, but looks like William and Mary and Georgia Tech.
Yeah, and I've got Florida State out in front visually over the rest of the field by open water on the pack. But what's going with them, of course, as you said, is Georgia Tech is trying to go with them. But Florida State currently the leader at the 1,000, or as we approach the 1,000 meters?
You know what? I'm gonna change that a little bit. I'm looking at crossing the 1,000 meters here, unless I don't see something different here. We could see Georgia Tech as a potential leader here, unless I'm missing William and Mary. Well, there's William and Mary right there. So I think Georgia Tech may have edged up a little bit on Florida State.
Yeah, Florida State with white blades and the garnet-colored unisuits. They're at a rate of striking of 35, and from our vantage point, or my vantage point, the white blades certainly showing up better than the Georgia Tech black and gold. So absolutely could be correct, Casey.
Yeah, it's a hard one to call from this point, but yeah, the white blades do stand out when you're looking down the course, and sometimes it gives you the sense of, oh, I can see those better, they must be ahead, but that's not always the case.
No, and Georgia Tech is a rate of striking of 33. We already stated that Florida State at 35.5, so, you know, a lot of efficiency happening there in Georgia Tech, which, you know, potentially that gives them more room to go as they go in the last 500 meters here.
We're trying to, we're watching the cameras here, and again, we're watching, this is Georgia Tech in lane 4 and Liberty, I believe, in lane 2. But we're not seeing Florida State, so you may be correct looking at those white blades flash, the garnet and gold out there, that they could have that lead. But I tell you what, it's too close to call looking at what from the cameras.
Yeah, and Williams and Mary, and I'm going to say the Liberty crew, they're knotted up for third. You know, if you look at lane 2, Liberty and William and Mary, those are tied up for third and fourth, and that's a great race happening there.
It's even here between Georgia Tech and Florida State. We just got a good line across the bows there, and Georgia Tech might have a foot or two lead over Florida State. So this is quite the race.
Yeah, now this is the A final, so this is again for medals. Obviously, everybody's on the line. We've been watching some of the B and C finals, but this is an A final, so this is really important for each of these programs.
Georgia just jumped here. Georgia just jumped with 500 meters to go. They must have had a move plan just before that 500, because Georgia Tech just took a half a boat length edge on Florida State.
And I've got Georgia Tech at still a 33 and Florida State at 34.5. So Georgia Tech moving really well for their rating, and I think they have a lot of room still to go.
Now, right there is William and Mary in lane 5, and now they're challenging Florida State for that silver medal. But this is for the medals again. Georgia Tech in that position, if they can hang on here, it could be a gold day for them. But look at the battle for the medals here. Look over at lane 2, in lane 3, in lane 5. I mean, we've got 3 boats here that could be in contention for medals.
Right. You've got Liberty. We don't talk about them a whole bunch, but they're battling for that 3rd, 4th position against William and Mary, and Florida State is battling against Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech currently the leader. Florida State second. Liberty challenging on that outside lane 2.
Yeah.
And look at them come up. They're doing a great job. We don't talk about them a lot, but they're doing a great job today in this women's novice.
Liberty at 35 strokes a minute too. And it is Georgia Tech that has that edge with 200 meters to go, less than 200, maybe 100 meters to go. Georgia Tech is pulling it out, going for that gold medal, but I cannot pick out that second place crew. You got 3 boats going for second here.
I like Liberty in the far boot with the teal-colored shirts. They've been moving well. I think they've drawn even on second place, Florida State.
Just great racing here. Look at this, Brad. This is just amazing here as they go down, looking for that last inch. I agree with you. It could be Liberty that's going to pull out this silver.
Liberty's got about a 2-foot advantage,
I don't think so, Brad.
Here
it's
comes
3
Florida
bows,
State.
3
Here comes
bows.
Florida State. Oh,
this is
Florida
camera.
State. Oh, look at this.
Oh, my
and
gosh.
Georgia Tech. Did Georgia Tech come in and get second there? They came in right.
No, Georgia Tech was the one that won that, right?
I'm sorry, William and Mary. William and Mary jumped right up in there in the last 2 strokes.
Liberty, Florida State, and William and Mary. That's going to be a camera finish. I don't think anyone can call that. That is what grand finals are all about, Brad.
Yeah, you know, we talked about gears yesterday, you know, where we, you know, at 500 meters or 1,000 meters, they change the gear a little bit. At the 500 to go, they change again. They take the ratings up. They get longer, more efficient. And then here we saw at 250, they changed another gear. And in the last 5 strokes, another gear.
Oh, there you go. You know, you've got just racing as hard as they can, everything they got, every stroke they've got in order to try and make this a medal round. But now Georgia Tech going to be wearing the gold medals.
The referees are, in fact, needing to look at video in order to see the order of finish there. As each crew took up their ratings, the shifting of first, second, third, fourth was certainly really exciting there as each crew trying to get into the medals.
All right, again, with 7-minute centers, we're going to go right back down the course to the men's novice 4 for the petite final of them. This is in lane 1, Georgia, on the far side of the course. Lane 2, Clemson University. Lane 3, Dayton out of Ohio. Lane 4, Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish. Lane 5, the Boilermakers of Purdue. And lane 6, UT Chattanooga.
Well, as we would expect, and we say this each time the race comes down, I've got lane 3, Dayton, as the current leader. Coming out is the way I see it from here. If we look at the video, we'll start to pick up some action there. But I see the lane Notre Dame, and Notre Dame rode very well yesterday.
Yeah, they did.
So I'm thinking that Notre Dame is sitting there letting Dayton have a little bit, but I don't think the Irish are going to let them sit there very long.
Oh, it's okay to be patient there if you know what you got in the second half. Now they're crossing the 1,000-meter mark right now, and I'm gonna. Yeah, you're right. It's going to be Notre Dame and Dayton at this point as they come through that 1,000. We'll see if we can get some ratings on them. I'm getting 36 on Dayton in lane 3. I'll see if we can pull a rating here quickly on Notre Dame. And Notre Dame a little bit lower, about 33.5. So room to go. We always talk about room to go. That means that if they need to run the rating up and get a little bit more speed, find that little bit more speed or another gear, Notre Dame has a little bit of room to go. But I've seen, as we saw earlier today, we saw one crew, I think it was High Point, come down at 37, 38 strokes a minute all the way down the course.
Absolutely. And Clemson and Purdue, you know, really knotted up for that third, fourth position. And outside, UT Chattanooga right there as well. So we got a really tight situation for third. Again, we got the leaders, Dayton and Notre Dame, but Purdue, Chattanooga, and Clemson really fighting for that third position very, very strongly.
You know, Brad, I cannot pick it out here who would be the leader of this group. I'm going to call it Notre Dame at this point. I think you might agree with me. It might be overlapping, but it looks like Notre Dame in the second half here has put their move on. What we've seen all along with them as they cross 1,000, they seem to have good strategy moves right there.
Yeah, and I have Notre Dame at a 32.5 and Dayton at 35. That's a telling statement. You know, if there's running side by side, you'd think that there's a lot of room for Notre Dame to move up here in the last 500 meters. Notre Dame still at 32.5, and they really are sharpening themselves here, and they're holding off the challenge from Dayton on in lane 3. Again, and if I slide back to third position, I'll say Clemson and Purdue knotted up for third, fourth. I won't call either one being an advantage over the other. Purdue, Clemson, side by side, through 3 lanes apart, so hard to gauge as that they come down. This is the men's novice 4B final. Casey, if we look at this now,
look at that.
Look at this finish line coming down here. We've got just a wonderful finish. We've got these two crews, Dayton and Notre Dame.
Brad, we've got, just as we come down with 100 meters to go, we got the men's A final, the grand final, of men's novice 4 coming up here. And we're just going to do a quick little rundown. We've got 6 boats across. It would appear that we've got lane 3, which is Duke University, may have that early lead. Let's jump back to the finish here on the B final, and then we'll go back to the A final.
Okay, well, Dayton has taken it to Notre Dame. You know, Notre Dame, let's see what happens in the last 5 strokes. This is a race. They've got a deck maximum. Dayton coming across first, Notre Dame second in this men's novice 4. So that's exciting for them. And then here comes Clemson across third. So this is the men's novice 4 B final that we're catching just the moment here, and we'll be switching back now to that A final that you're talking about.
We'll give a quick rundown of the lanes on the A final here, which is underway at the 500-meter mark with a mile to go. It is lane 1, High Point. Lane 2, Temple University out of Philadelphia. Lane 3, which was the current leader a little bit ago, Duke University. Lane 4, Rollins College. We saw some great things out of them earlier yesterday. In lane 5, Alabama. In lane 6, Oklahoma City University.
Yeah, so we've got the video there, Casey. We've got lane 3 as the current leader. That's Duke, and Duke rode very nicely. I remember that we had Blue, Rollins, and Duke again. As I remember them, they were really a good battle. So Duke coming out in first at this point, and they're at about the 1,000-meter mark, Casey, at this point.
Yeah, and I see the bow of Rollins College sitting right there behind them. Duke in that Duke University, the Duke blue boat, and Rollins in that white boat with the yellow blades or the blue tips. But it's Duke and Rollins. Duke with that boat length advantage right now.
Yeah, they do have a boat length advantage, and the rest of the field seems to be stacked up fairly well. We got Rollins and Temple battling for second and third, it looks like, from me.
Nice shot of Oklahoma City's bow there. You see the name on there. You can read it, James E. Alexander the Great. And they're rowing about 34 strokes a minute. I believe that they could be the ones in third place at this point, because you can see the boats on the far side of the course. Temple University over there in lane 2, High Point in lane 1. What I don't know is where Alabama is at the moment. What do you see down there? I think Alabama's sitting back just a little bit on the
Absolutely.
That group.
And Rollins at a rate of striking of 36. You can see their yellow blades from here. They're rowing a 36, so they're trying to make something happen. They've already gone past the 1,000-meter mark, and they've got them. You know, this is an A final, so these are for medals, Casey.
Yeah.
So Duke has got a nice advantage, but Rollins is going to. They have 1,000 meters or 800 meters to make a change here.
Well, it looks to me like it's bow to stern with Duke University over Rollins. But Oklahoma City in lane 6 is what I would call currently in third place. Oklahoma, I got them at 35 strokes a minute, so they're running a hard driving rate down the course here.
I agree with that. Oklahoma City, you know, out on the outside. Sometimes that can be the spoiler position because they're not in the center of the course. The other coxswains aren't really paying attention. Remember that these coxswains are in the bow of the boat. They don't have a good visual to crews coming up from the outside, and so Oklahoma could be a spoiler there if they're not careful.
Duke at 35 strokes a minute, same thing as Oklahoma City over in lane 6. Have you gotten a rating on Rollins lately?
Yeah, I've got one for you right here. They're at 37.5, so they have cranked it up. They need to be moving because right now Duke is in control, but Rollins is the one that will take it to them if they can.
I see Oklahoma University maybe coming up on Rollins. I don't know if they've got enough real estate left. They're just passing the 500-meter to go, and I believe that Rollins probably has a little bit of open water, but sometimes you can see drastic things happen here as we go in. We just went through a little gust of wind there. Did you see that?
Yeah, I do. You can see that dark squall going across the water there, and it's just a little puff, but sometimes that, you know, upsets the crews. This is a novice event, so, you know, stability can be a question at times, but that Oklahoma City is closing up on Rollins. Rollins one link down on the Duke crew, and I would say that Oklahoma City about a half a length, maybe a deck and 2 seats.
I think the Duke University crew has opened up and continue to move away a little bits at a time, and nothing drastic, but they're gradually opening up. Oklahoma City coming up on Rollins here. Brad, look at this.
Yeah, and you've got Temple as solid fourth, but they're being challenged by High Point on that outside. This isn't over yet. There's still some racing to be done. I'm not sure who is going to be fourth, but we look at Oklahoma City, a solid third, but there's a good race happening between Temple and High Point.
Yep.
Lane 1 and Lane 2.
But
High Point is really trying to take it to Temple.
For the medals now, it is still Duke University in that Duke blue boat and Rollins College in second, followed by Oklahoma in third.
Yeah, and that Duke University from the beginning doing a nice job. They're a length and a half advantage over Rollins. Rollins just doing a nice job as well. And we're coming up with Oklahoma City coming across the line third in that tandem rig on the starboard side. You can see that bucket rig. Coxswain sitting up as they come across. Temple surviving the push from the outside crew from High Point. Temple coming across fourth, just out of the medals, and High Point fourth, fifth, and we're finishing up here with Alabama in the sixth position.
We're going to touch base back again. We had one event that came through that was a photo finish for the women's novice 4. That was for the grand final for the medals. And the winner of that event was Georgia Tech. And not able to call it here at the line, but some people with the review of the camera showed that William and Mary took second in that race, and Florida State took third, Liberty fourth. We're going to take you back to the starting line. We're starting a little bit early. This is not unusual if the athletes agree to have the race go off early. It also helps the referees keep everything on time. But this is the women's second novice 8A final. This is a grand final with 4 crews in here. Purdue University A in lane 2. University of Tennessee Knoxville, their varsity team in lane 3. Lane 4 is Purdue University B, their second entry in this. In lane 5, University of Florida. And the yellow boat in the camera there, again, these are the 8s now. Yellow boat in the camera is Purdue University. That is their A boat. And right next to them, Tennessee Varsity. And there your lane 5, that's University of Florida. But the early portion of this race, this is 500 meters, a little past that into it. It looks to be Purdue University with the edge, but by more than a foot. It's University of Florida. It's about a foot back or 2 feet back as they're going through that the first into the second 500 of this event. Purdue striking 34.5 strokes a minute, and now I see the bow of Tennessee Varsity. This is the second novice 8 pulling in here. We got overlap on at least 3 of these boats. I'm looking for the Purdue B boat, but looks like Purdue, the A boat, is pulled out just a little bit more. Again, every stroke they're gaining, an inch or 2, and that's all it takes to win these races. 36 strokes a minute on the inside here. This is the University of Florida rowing a little bit higher than the other crews, trying to stay in contact, but it is all Purdue University A that is moving away from the field here. And you can imagine these rowers, as they're seeing these boats slip back behind them, they add a little bit more power, a little bit more precision, a little bit more finesse as they push the other boats away and gain confidence as they start moving away. And the coxswain, I'm sure, is encouraging him to just continue on, do more with that. But over the last 500 meters, it is Purdue that was a few feet out, and now they've got a full boat length. And I believe those girls are confident now that they can pull this out. You guys are out. Get that So looking down the course, it is Purdue University with apparently a full boat length lead, maybe even breaking free of the Tennessee varsity boat, and the University of Florida in lane 5. Well, varsity boat when it comes to women's second novice 8s are varsity programs, and not to be confused with Tennessee's varsity 8, which is elsewhere this weekend. And actually, these boats are looking pretty good. Purdue has that advantage here. It actually looks like a race is coming up for that second place, and that is between Florida and the University of Tennessee Knoxville. But Purdue did a great move in that second 500, going from, again, just a foot or two out on the field to a full boat length. We'll see if they're moving away. And it looks like they do have a little bit of open water here. Trying to get a view, Brad. It's got University of Florida here in lane 5, and the University of Tennessee in the orange in lane 3, with Purdue in the lead now over there in lane 2. But looks like University of Florida has now established that second place position. And again, this is a grand final for the women's second novice 8.
Yeah, I have Florida at 35.5, so they've got some room to grow in the last part here. Purdue rowing well on that outside lane, drawing away from that Tennessee crew currently in third. But Florida and Tennessee, I think, is where the battle is. I think actually Purdue making a nice move here. Well,
Purdue did a great move back in the second 500, really just pulling out a full boat length on the field, and that's where they've been since then. If they're comfortable, I don't know if I'd be comfortable in the grand final sitting there with just a boat length, but they seem to be doing the job.
Yeah, they are doing a nice job. And yeah, well, look, we have a little problem there out in Tennessee. They did catch a crab there. That may open the door for Florida to come by them.
Well, it's close here between Florida and Tennessee. I thought Florida had them, and maybe Florida had an anomaly we didn't see.
Yeah, but it seems to be really knotted up between those two. I'd actually say Tennessee may have recovered with a little bit of adrenaline there, and again back out in front of Florida.
Yeah, 35 strokes a minute for Tennessee. Purdue coming to the line now. 3 strokes to go. Purdue in the medal-winning position.
Yep. So Purdue coming across in first, and Tennessee solid in, if you call it deck length, solid in second. Florida crossed in third in this women's second novice 8.
And Purdue's B entry here just again shows their depth in the novice 8s, the women's novice 8s. Purdue's B entry coming across the line here now.
Yeah, that is impressive when you can have novice 8s. You've got 2 of them, and they are in the second one is in the grand final.
And we got another grand final coming up here, Brad. This is the men's second novice 8. We just had the women's, now we got the men's. This will be a 6-boat race, and it will have Georgia Tech in lane 1, University of Texas, Yeehaw in lane 2. Lane 3, the Purdue Boilermakers. Lane 4, Georgia Tech, the Rowing Rex. In lane 5, Delaware, and in lane 6, Colorado.
Yeah, this should be a good race. Again, we're in the novice level still, but it is an A final, so they've had to battle their way through to get here today. Again, as I said, we had 76 races yesterday, heats in the morning before noon, and in the afternoon they had to go through semifinals to get here. So this is the cream of the crop, even though it is the second men's novice 8. Still, they're going to be a great race, I anticipate.
Well, you say second men's novice 8. That means there's another novice 8 race out here, the first men's novice 8, right?
So, yeah, so we got that. Doesn't that tell a big story about the depth of these programs, that they're able to put out 2 novice 8s?
Well, that's right. Look at Georgia Tech here with 2 entries in there, and you go further down the schedule, you'll see Georgia Tech also in the men's novice 8. So good depth of the men's novice program for Georgia Tech.
Yeah, and Georgia Tech, they've been perennially pretty strong coming out of that Georgia area in Atlanta. But, when you have novice program with 2 8s, just on the novice side, that's really going to do well for your JVs and varsity in the upcoming years.
Well, that's 3 8s, and they probably have 4s out there as well.
That's right. And we have been calling their names, so, yeah, they're out there. And Purdue, we've talked about them pretty much all day long. You know, they, if nothing else, seem to have the most entries that we've been talking about.
Okay. Yeah. Now that last race, they started a little bit early, which again we had mentioned that was that's a prerogative by the referees. If everyone's there and online, they can ask the teams if they're ready to go. If everyone says okay, they can start the race early, as they did this last time. But if you're not ready to go, you don't have to go until it's time.
No, and you know, when the weather is cool like this, and it's absolutely perfect racing condition, but it's not 90 degrees or 80 degrees, it's important to get started if you have the ability. Everybody's there. I think most athletes would be excited about getting started if they're on the line, they're ready, and they're warmed up, and they don't sit there and cool down.
Well, you're right. That the cool down, especially, you know, we're in cool conditions. It's not cold, but cool. There's a little breeze out here. If you're sitting there on that line, the wind's going across you, your skin temperature starts dropping, and you can tighten up, and that's what you don't want to have on a starting line.
Well, and we've both been through this, is where you sit on the line, and worse than your skin tightening up, but your heart rate starts to drop. You know, you want to be really, your circulation level, your heart rate wants to be up as you back into that starting line and lock on to a beautiful starting platform down there where they actually back the crews in to the starting line. You can see that in the video now. They are more like docks that go out towards the finish line, and the coxswain backs the stern into that dock position. Good shots of the starting line there, if we can keep that video feed. But if you get a little bit of that, you know, as these crews back into it. Yeah, so they're on a stationary dock that they're backing in, and then they've got someone that hangs onto the stern and to lock them on. And when they're there doing that, the issue that you have is your heart rate starts to fall, and that's worse than really cooling down. And well, yeah, that's true. And you know, these warm-ups, these people, they have to go in there with warm bodies and get their heart rates up to race pace, really. So if, you know, these kids are rowing down here, we talk about heart rates a little bit. Some of these kids are rowing at the highest level they possibly can. Their heart rates are going to be 180, 190, 200, sometimes over 200 beats a minute. And to row well, you've got to get warmed up and get that heart moving, and then not let it go down too much before you go to that line. Yeah, and if you do go out in the line and you sit there too long, if you get under 120 beats per minute, you're going to feel it about 500 meters out. You're going to get out there and you say, my God, what happened? Because my body, you know, has cooled down too much. So that's the downside, is you start off well, but you end up with this really difficult position about 500, 600 meters out if you don't stay warm. Yeah. I think that's called oxygen debt, right? I thought that started from the first stroke. For many of these, it may have started long before then. I know, Brad, you probably remember, but when you've got a big race coming up the next day, it's hard not to have your mind go through this again and again. In some cases, that's good, but the other times it can wear you out. Absolutely. You know, we were talking yesterday about the physical fatigue, but there's a lot of mental fatigue. I was talking to some of the coaches, and a lot of the times, some of these crews have been a very good season. They have been the leader all the way along the season, and now at this level of competition, they've got crews right beside them, and mentally they can have some breaks. Yeah, some good camera shots of the teams backing into the stake boat or the launch area there. You can see the land behind them. That's where the referee sits on a tower. He has an actual flag in his hand, usually a red flag that he raises. And as soon as that flag moves, as they call the start, usually the commands are ready, all go. Is that correct? Attention, go. Thank you. It has changed over the years, so us old guys don't always remember. It was et vous prêt, partez, and then international starting, and then it changed, I think, to a second one. Now it's attention. So Brad, look, you can see these crews. They're all on the stake boats now. They're all sitting in the ready position, and you can see a little bit of oar movement there, trying to get the teams lined up on the buoys so they're not pointed off. You don't want to have a crew cross over the buoys and interfere with another one, and the start is critical for that. A missed stroke can make that boat jump right over into another lane. Yeah, and you'll see at times where the coxswain will have their hand up, or the bow person will have their hand up. That's telling the referees and the aligners that they are not ready for whatever reason, whether it's they got to take off a shirt or they have to make an adjustment on their point. And when those hands are down, then the crew is signaling that they're ready to go.
Let's watch this start now. Again, Georgia Tech, one of the Georgia Tech boats in lane 1, Texas lane 2, Purdue 3, Georgia Tech a second boat in lane 4, Delaware in lane 5, and Colorado in lane 6 closest to us.
You know, one thing that you're going to see here is you're going to see a really high cadence as they come out. Yesterday we talked about this is about 2,000 pounds of weight in these boats, including the boat, that are accelerating. Here we go. Now you're going to see some really short strokes here as they get the boat going, and then they're going to start to lengthen out after about 10 strokes, but the rating will be very high, up in the 40s.
So look at these bows. You know, when you talk about 6 boats across, here you got a boat now that's jumping right out in front. I believe that's going to be that's in the yellow boat. That's Purdue
and Georgia Tech.
And I'm not so sure. That's the Blue Hens of Delaware that have the 2 boats that have put their bows out right after that start.
Yeah, is that a crew there? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we've got nice. You've got this lane 6, which is this is lane 5, Delaware, and right beside them in the yellow boat, I'm going to say Purdue and Georgia Tech with them as well. Far side out there. Sliding back a bit, but we've got that. What a great start there, and it was good for you as a video feed to see that coming out of the start.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, what do you got? Yeah, far side of the course. You know, looking across all these boats, again, it's hard to discern it, but I would say in third could be that Georgia Tech boat well over there in lane 1. But the Blue Hens of Delaware sticking their bow out in front now and moving away a little bit over Purdue, and potentially Georgia Tech in third position.
Yeah, I think the camera angle saying that, you know, they're running a little bit behind the bows of the boat, so the perspective is a little off. But I think Delaware here, the leader coming out early, and we're about 300 meters, but you can see the bow of lane 3. Is that Purdue?
That's Purdue, yep,
Purdue.
The yellow boat.
So they're about, and here we are 500 meters in the video there. So you got the Delaware crew up by, let's say, 2/3 of a length over Purdue just by watching the video.
So you know they're probably a minute and a half, maybe a minute and 40 seconds to 500 meters. That's over a quarter mile. A quarter mile is 400 meters. So they're covering this distance probably about as fast as most people can run flat out.
Absolutely, and you know you can see now the stroke rating has dropped from that high tempo start, and you can see the crews really lengthening out. Look how far they're reaching before they put that oar in the water. How much compression they're getting in their legs, and that's what really moves these boats, is that compression and that smooth long stroke. You can see it how horizontal they are in silhouette there.
And that's Colorado's bow there at in lane 6 that is, you know, overlapping or very close to overlapping with Purdue's stern. So we call it bow to stern. That's what we refer to as if the bow ball of one boat is touching the stern of another boat when you look straight across the course. That's called bow to stern.
Yeah, so we've got this lane 6 Colorado in the foreground as it moves back and forth slightly, as accelerates and decelerates as the oars are out of the water. And then you're looking across the course to Georgia Tech. Is that right?
Yeah, it looks like the 2 Georgia Tech boats are almost in a dead heat with each other there. Georgia Tech A and B boat in lanes 1 and 4, but there's Delaware that you're seeing now, the blue blades of Delaware, and in the background the yellow boat of Purdue crossing 1,000 meters. I mean, it was only another minute and a half ago that we were at the 500.
Yeah, and Delaware has maintained that lead. They have slid out of the picture, but as I look down the course, they are currently in the lead, but the Purdue seems to be right there. You know, I'm going to say a link back at this point. So we got Purdue, Georgia Tech, and Colorado in lane 3, 4, and 6 that are knotted up for this second, third, fourth. Now, this is a final, so these are for the medals, and they're going to award 3 positions, plus a trophy.
You know, we're watching these 2 Georgia Tech boats that are just bow to bow. I mean, they've been bow to bow almost since the start, and you can imagine the guys in that boat are like, I'm going to beat this other boat. Maybe they haven't ever beaten them before, and now's the time to do it.
Yeah, you know, especially when they're 2 teammates. They know themselves intimately well. They know where their moves are. They know where their strengths are, and that should play into one of their favors.
So it's Delaware Purdue is the 2 leaders here in this grand final, the men's second novice 8. And the two Georgia Tech boats battling it out. But over here in lane 6, also right up there, looks to be with the Georgia Tech boats, is Colorado. We got 1/8 that fell back. That looks like Texas, like they may have had a problem back there.
You know, we talked about yesterday that, you know, the matrix is the winners are supposed to go in 3 and 4. We didn't see Delaware must have been saving something for today because they're in what would have been a second-place finish yesterday, and here they are, the leaders.
You know, I would guess, Brad, looking at the field now, that Texas must have caught a terrific crab, meaning where the oar got stuck in the water, because they fell back dramatically.
And they're like, stopped in the water there.
Well, they're going now, but I think they were turned sideways for a little bit, so that tells me someone in there caught their oar in the water and got stuck and just stopped them dead.
Purdue is at a very low rate of striking, Casey. You know, I'm not sure how much they have, but they're only rowing at 31. And so there's some room there. And you know,
Purdue's overtaking Delaware right now.
Yeah, so I think Purdue has a lot to offer here, and we're at 500 meters to go. So let's see what happens as Purdue is now moved into second, as you're calling it. And do they have enough real estate to catch Delaware?
Well, I think I just saw the camera. I mean, they were down to Delaware. Delaware is giving up some of this lead they had. Looks to me like Delaware is really trying to put the pedal to the metal and raise this rate of striking. But Purdue is low and long, and if they have moved up, they know they've got confidence now to just throw that rating out there.
They have moved up. They're well in contact. You remember Delaware was open water on the field. Now Purdue is moved up, and I'm going to say they're only down by a quarter of a length.
Yeah, and Purdue's going to have, again, they're running out of real estate. Purdue, it's very, very close here. I wouldn't call this at all, but Purdue, if they can raise that rate of striking, unless they're moving away and the coxswain knows it, they could pull this off. Again, this is for the gold medal.
Now, so they've gone up one beat just with being a little stronger. They've got a lot of momentum, and I'm going to say Purdue is moving right through right now.
Yep.
Here comes Purdue. They're moving into the lead.
Look at the Georgia Tech boats coming up on Delaware. Yep. Georgia Tech may be able to pull out a silver medal here in lane 4 here. This is Georgia Tech coming up bow ball to bow ball with Delaware. Delaware scrambling, trying to stay in front. It's
Georgia
about 2
Tech
feet.
At 37.5. Delaware responding really nicely, Casey. You know, Delaware's going to salvage that second. Georgia Tech third.
Oh, what a run there. What a run there.
Outside lane coming across. That was lane 1. Georgia Tech as well in 4th. Inside lane here. Colorado finishing up 5th.
So what happened there, Brad? Delaware with that big lead early on, and then Purdue coming through, and then Georgia Tech almost taking Delaware down at the end. What happened with that?
Well, I saw Georgia Tech actually move into that 3rd position with about 3 strokes to go. Delaware really responded. I think what happened there, Casey, is that Georgia Tech took a little early jump and caught Delaware a little off guard, but very aware, you know, probably stroke 7, telling the coxswain looking over that they realized that they're being challenged, and they pulled the rating up again to 38, Delaware did, in the last 5 strokes and regained that position.
I would surmise, too, that being novice crews, that Delaware went out a little too strong. You get a little bit of high out there in that first 1,000 when you got that open water, like, oh my gosh, this just feels fabulous. Like you can go the whole way, and suddenly you realize things are starting to not go quite that way.
Haven't you been there?
I have been there.
You know, you get a little bit of euphoria that that the race is going really well. It feels so easy. You're out front. Life couldn't be better, and then all of a sudden it starts to cave in on you.
Well, you start to see these boats move and say, well, you know, it felt so easy. How come these other boats are starting to move? And so you try harder, and it gets a little bit worse and a little bit worse, and now you're scrambling to try and keep your position.
And I won't say this is the case, but in the novices it might be the case, is that all of a sudden you feel like the load is on you. You start pulling harder yourself instead of paying attention to the crew as a whole, and it starts to come apart a little bit.
Yeah, and we've got another race coming up here, Brad. It's a women's novice 8B final, the petite final. And they are off the blocks. And in lane 1, College at Charleston out of Charleston, South Carolina. Lane 2, Vanderbilt. Lane 3, Colorado. Lane 4, Clemson. Lane 5, High Point. And lane 6, Washington University in St. Louis.
And we're getting the video feed from that from about, I guess, the 1,000 meters as they the video cameras setting themselves up to be for this A final that will be coming up next. But we'll try to pick up and carry this women's novice 8 B final to you and give you a little play-by-play as it comes down. A little bit far down the course to really
Brad, back to this women's novice 8. We had to wait a little bit there just because as we're getting the times from the last heat in, we got to be a little aware of when they announce it so the referees can hear it and record it.
Yeah, we're up here in the tower at the finish line, so you know, the officials are running the regatta as they do, and they do a great job with it. But it's always important to get the finish time announced and get it into the record book, so we had to be quiet there for a moment. So as these crews in this women's novice 8, they're approaching the 1,000-meter mark, and the point there, they're probably about 800 meters into this race. You know, it looks like a pretty solid race. That center and all the way over, I'm going to say 3, 4, 5. Those crews are the ones that are a bit out on the rest of the field. And I like Charleston in lane 1. They're still hanging in there. The Vanderbilt back a bit, and Washington U back in lane 6 are the two that are back. The rest are pretty thick.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And again, this B final, you know, some of these teams that are in this B final, they may have felt slighted or shorted or whatever happened, and to get them in the B finals to the A final, you're going to see these crews prove something today.
Right. And you know, we talked about earlier that, you know, this may be some of these crews' final race for the season. You know, the biggest thing is, you know, can I compete? You know, can I show the coach that you can take me and we can go on to the next race, whether it be a conference championship, the Dad Bale Regatta, some of these other things. So these crews are fighting for that opportunity to stay and keep going. You know, we talked a little bit about how much it costs to move these programs around at $800 a meal, or you know, $2,000 a night for a hotel for some of these larger programs. And you know, it's a big financial thing. So if they can prove themselves that we're ready to go on and win at the next level, the coach is going to take them.
Yeah. Back to the race here, I'm looking at what appears to be Colorado that may have an edge here, but not if there's anybody off of them. I'd say Clemson right next to them in lane 4 is going to be their next closest competitor, but Colorado might have the edge.
Yeah, and I'd say second place, third place, fourth place, really tight. I'm going to say Clemson and High Point tied for that second, third. And then you look over on the outside, Charleston in lane 1, right there in the thick of it. So I don't want to call anybody. I'd say Clemson's probably in second with High Point right there beside him, and Charleston maybe is that fourth position currently.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you there, but as you look at lane 6 and lane 2, they've slipped back off the pace a little bit, but I see a pretty good challenge there from lanes 5, which is High Point, lane 4, Clemson, and College of Charleston over there in lane 1, but clearly Colorado has established themselves as the open water leader here as they go into the second half of the race.
Yeah, Clemson at a rate of striking at 34, and I'm going to say High Point right beside them. High Point just a little bit behind, and if we can get some video on that and tighten up on that. But it's hard to tell that there's any difference between High Point and Clemson for that second, third position. I think clearly now Charleston is a solid fourth, but that and I'm going to say that Washington U may be closing in on and passing that Charleston crew. So lanes 1 and 6 are really battling for that position.
I would look at that High Point crew now that may have come through Clemson in lane 4. High Point to me looks like they have actually gotten through that the Clemson boat, and I believe those leaders there, that leader Colorado, may be giving up a little bit of ground, but then again, it's if you can make it to the finish line first, it doesn't make any difference if you give up that ground.
Yeah, Colorado at a rate of striking of 32.5, so they have quite a bit of room as far as stroke rating to take it up. It's always whether or not they can keep that length and stay efficient as the rating comes up. They are a length advantage over the other crews.
I got High Point at 40 strokes a minute here as they are trying to make sure they get into this second place position and hold on to it. But Clemson sitting next to him isn't giving it up.
No, Clemson is still down, which gives them, you know, if High Point's at a 40 and Clemson's at 34, they do have some room.
We're gonna jump to the women's novice 8A final before we get into the last 100 meters here. We'll go right back to the finish here of the B final, but in the A final are with Emory, Purdue, Florida, Tennessee, and Murray State and Oklahoma City have started, and you're seeing those on the video now. But we've got 100 meters or less to go as we come down the line for the B level, a petite final with Colorado out in the lead.
Yeah, Casey, you were calling High Point and Clemson. Look on the outside now. That's Charleston.
College of Charleston.
Charleston, you know, they had slid back to fourth. Now look what's happened. They're in second, and a very solid second. But that fourth, the third place medal currently is going to be Clemson. But look at High Point challenging.
Oh, look at that. Look at that.
High Point coming on.
That's going to be another photo finish.
High Point pulling it out unofficially there for that third place medal. Those are the kind of races that are exhilarating, and you don't get to see it from the fan side. It's great to have this video opportunity.
Yeah. And so let's jump back to the A final. Again, this was the women's novice A petite final. This is the top 6 qualifiers for the grand final for the medals.
Yeah, so, you know, this is where yesterday I remember these crews, Florida and Tennessee did a great job. They're obviously placed themselves in lane 3 and 4. They were the winners of those semifinals. So, you know, again, our eyes are going to gravitate that at 500 meters. We've got a great shot across the field there as you look at the crews battling for that position. And it's 3 and 4 as we expected, and that's Tennessee, Casey, and Florida. Tennessee closer to us in the camera, Florida in the background slightly, and be careful of that perspective because I think they're really side by side.
I think they are absolutely side by side here. I got Tennessee at 34 strokes a minute. And you can see them as the camera pans back. The other ones, it is the classic V-shaped race pattern down here with the 2 middle lanes showing the way.
Yeah, and Purdue, very, very solid. They're the ones on the far side of this picture, and the Cox is just sliding out of the video. That's Purdue, and they're in 3rd place, and they are not far behind those leaders.
They're in lane 4. That is
Tennessee. That's Tennessee in lane 4, and we're looking across there.
You know what? That's Murray State in lane 5. I wonder if we might have 2 bound numbers. Lane 5 gets a little bit confused here, but that was Murray State we were just looking at there in the actual. Lane 5.
Yeah, now so look right here. We're getting the Coxswain seats of that Tennessee crew and Florida up just a bit. You can see the Coxswain sitting at about the 6th position of Tennessee, so that gives them a 3-seat advantage if you are on board the boat. That's the way the Coxswain would be calling it. I got the 6th seat. Give me the 5 seat, and that's the way they're going to walk them through at the 1,000 meters.
1,000-meter mark at University of Florida has that little bit of advantage. You know, a lot of these crews will have particular strategy moves at this point, usually going into the 1,000 or coming out of the 1,000, trying to gain a little bit more leverage on there. You see Purdue coming up on the far side in lane 2 that's starting to overlap with Florida and Tennessee. So we've seen Purdue do some pretty amazing things in the second half of the race. If this is consistent, and again, this is a novice 8, this is going to be their best novice rowers, freshman novices that are they're gonna be putting it out here for the medals today.
Well, we saw that, Casey, that Florida was ahead of Tennessee, but, you know, I agree with you. You can't count out the Boilermakers on the outside there.
Oh, Boilermakers making a move. Look at this.
They are generally and notoriously very strong and have a great second half.
Boilermakers now look like they are challenging or moving into and through Tennessee, and now it's going to be overlapping here with University of Florida. Florida with a boat length lead, but the Boilermakers, like I said yesterday, they're throwing wood on the fire here as they go through that 1,000 meters and trying to go bow to stern to University of Florida and gain that at least that silver medal position for now.
When you say wood on the fire, I have them at a 37, so they are cooking it. 37 strokes a minute is what the Boilermakers were in that move just after the 1,000.
Well, I'll tell you, the group from Tennessee, though, has answered the Boilermakers. Boilermakers came up a lot, but Tennessee has basically stopped them or held their move, and now it's stroke for those two. Although I'm still looking at Boilermakers a little bit. Maybe they're gaining an inch here and there, but that major move they made right after the 1,000 has been pretty well halted by the Tennessee crew in lane 4.
Yeah, and, you know, that's a credit to the Tennessee coxswain, and I'll say the 7 and 8 position, because those are the eyes that have to look and see what's going on, especially when you got a crew a couple lanes over, and they make a move like that, you got to respond, and that is a really good counter strategy.
Well, as we went through with 500 meters to go, it is the University of Florida with a boat-length lead with a little bit of open water, and the Boilermakers in second with Tennessee trying to haul them in. But at this moment, at 500 meters, you're going to have to do something now. Again, this is for the medals, and these coxswains and crews are tasting it.
Yeah, and Purdue, you know, had that, I'm going to say, some sort of a 10 or maybe a 20 at a 37 at the 1,000. They've lengthened back out, and they're currently at a 34. So they've settled down, they've lengthened out, and they're holding it with giving them the opportunity to come back up in their rating in this last 500 meters.
So University of Florida, 34 strokes a minute, coming up the 250-meter mark with the red buoys here in just another stroke or two. And the Boilermakers out there in lane 2, along with Tennessee and University of Tennessee Knoxville in lane 4 going for the silver. But it is University of Florida that's in the gold medal position at this time as they go into that final sprint.
Yeah, and Florida currently at a 35, and they're looking strong. I think they have a lot of confidence. They've got a length and a quarter advantage over the rest of the field. Look at Purdue. This is going to be a great race between Tennessee and Purdue as they finish up. And let's look back further into it. We've got Murray State and Oklahoma City side by side. Murray State having the advantage for fourth, but Oklahoma City still trying to make a run.
University of Florida looking very sharp, very clean for a novice crew. Boy, it would almost make you think their varsity is going to be even sharper as we go further down the road here.
Yeah, and you've got Purdue increasing its rate of striking to back up to 37.5, getting a one-length advantage in that second position over that Tennessee crew that's coming across the line in third.
Now Oklahoma City, as you go in for fourth place, just a nose out ahead of Murray State, and on the far side of the course in lane 1, Emory University just behind them.
And we've got Murray State coming across the line in fourth, followed by Oklahoma City and Emory on the far side, closing it out in sixth.
Good job by Florida there.
Okay, Casey, we just 3 races ago we had the men's second novice 8, so now we've got the men's first novice 8. A lot of things to talk about there, and then this is the B final.
Yeah, sometimes hard to follow, but yeah, this is there's a lot of novices out there. Everyone loves rowing, and tell you what, when they get going on this, it's hard to put it down. But here comes that race, Brad.
Yeah, you know, the sport of rowing has grown so much. You know, we're sitting here by Willie Black from the U.S. Rowing, and he was mentioning last night that we've got 1,100 programs across the country. And Casey and I, yesterday, we spoke about Florida only having 6 collegiate programs back when you and I rowed, and now Florida has 15 collegiate programs, as last I counted, maybe inaccurately. But, you know, it's tripled in size in the last 30 years.
Yeah, and so, you know, Brad, I believe you're going to see rowing continue to expand. It's a great sport, an outdoor sport. It gets everyone cardiovascularly fit. It peels away any excess weight. You know, the kids come up through middle school or whatever, they always have a little bit of baby fat on there, and it teaches them a lot about teamwork. you're going to see this sport continue to grow.
Well, and we talked about, and I truly believe this. Somewhere in your life you have to sharpen your tools about being the best you can be. And we talked about this is not overly a spectator sport, but you hone those skills of waking up in the morning and say, I'm going to be better than I was yesterday. That's a really good trait to groom.
It sure is. Brad, let's jump onto this race here, because this is looking fairly even across the board here. And again, we've got University of North Carolina in lane 1, in lane 2, Florida Institute of Technology. This is the men's novice 8B final. Lane 3, Georgia Tech. Lane 4, Colorado. Lane 5, UC San Diego out of California. And lane 6, Vanderbilt.
Yeah, and we're about 650 meters from the finish line. And I've got Georgia Tech, Colorado, and California, San Diego, all really knotted up. If I had to call somebody as a leader, I'd say Colorado and Georgia Tech probably side by side, slight advantage over San Diego. But what's exciting is we've got Vanderbilt still hanging in there on the outside, about 1 length down.
And just a reminder here, Brad, is if you were looking down the course, sometimes the lanes can be confusing, but the lanes are numbered left to right as you look down the course from the starting line. So the far lane is lane 1, and closest to the shoreline here is lane 6. But this looks like a very, very good overlapping race. 3, 4 boats, maybe even 5 boats overlapping each other here.
Yeah, and again, we've got two crews that are side by side. The Colorado crew, the current leader with Georgia Tech, a really tight wood on wood, as we used to call it, over in second place. San Diego third. But I still like Vanderbilt. They're moving well. It is 500 meters to go, maybe 450. This is going to tighten up. This is a B final, so a lot of pride going here. I
got the Ramblin' Rex there at 37 strokes a minute. Colorado down at 32.5, 33. And they are the two leaders now. That is Colorado with an edge over Georgia Tech at the moment.
And look at on the outside lane there, UNC. UNC over in lane 1, they're at a 37.5, so they've come on early, and I want to say that they have pulled into third position over these inside. San Diego was a solid third, and UNC is really moving.
You may have that right, Brad. UNC on the outside is doing some serious damage, and I think they're coming up on the whole field. I don't think they're going to make it in the top 2 spots, but I would say they've got a pretty good chance of coming in third here, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think so. But what's really fun here, we got Colorado in lane 4, and we got Georgia Tech side by side.
Oh, bow to bow, bow to bow.
You can hear the coxswain beating the boats. Look at the sprint Colorado's got. 5 strokes. What a fantastic finish for those two crews. Coming across the line now, San Diego in 4th. That's Vanderbilt. Did a great job in the 5th position there. And outside, that is Florida Tech finishing 6th. Casey, those are the ones that are exhilarating. You have a crew on the outside like that, moving up on UNC. Now I believe they got unofficially, they got third, but we weren't even talking about them as they came down the course.
No, I looked early on down there, and it looked like a lot of these crews are fairly leveled across, and then UNC again, they're just putting on those moves in the second half of the race here, and they come right up through some of those folks.
Yeah, and sometimes we talked about that V-shaped group where you have the seeded, or let me say the faster coming out of the semifinals in lane 3 and 4, and sometimes lane 1 and 6 you can kind of hide over there. You're not noticed as much because you're 2 or 3 lanes away from what is the current leader, and you can move up kind of unseen.
Yeah, that's true, and you've got to have a wide field of vision but not look out of the boat. How do you do that? Well, you've got to realize you have peripherals out there, and you have to sense what's in the far side of the course because they can be moving and you don't realize it.
Yeah, and again, for the people that are maybe watching for the first time some rowing today, coxswain is sitting in the stern of these big 8s. They have a very limited view forward. And they would have to turn their head all the way around to see competition moving up from behind.
Yeah.
It really is 7 and 8 in the boat that needs to tell the coxswain we've got a crew moving.
Yep. And on the video, the live video we have going on now, this is the A final. This is for the medals of the men's novice 8. And in lane 1, again, the far side of the course is Washington University out of St. Louis. Lane 2, the University of Delaware. In lane 3, in the middle of course, George Washington University. In lane 4, University of Virginia. In lane 5, Purdue. And in lane 6, Jacksonville University.
Yeah, which is kind of fun here. Again, locking on, everybody is really nervous. You get locked on. You've been planning on this championship race today. You've gone through, you've gotten yourself to the grand final, what we call the A final on the program here. You're going to be one of either 1 through 6 is the way you're going to walk away from this race. You have the opportunity to win medals 1 through 3, and your knees are knocking, sitting right there.
Well, I recall being on the starting line many times, and it feels like your stomach's fluttering around outside your mouth. I mean, you're so nervous. Those are the butterflies, and you definitely have them. And you got to keep yourself calm on that line. If you get too nervous, you can miss that first stroke, and then your boat's starting down.
Yeah, and remember, this is novice, so a lot of things can happen. But you're exactly right, and I remember it so distinctly. Let's just get this thing started.
Here we go. Speaking of getting it started, it looks like they're all sitting ready down here on the starting line.
Yeah, notice that you do see some of the oars moving. That's just to keep the point of the shell pointed right down the lane. We are in a buoyed system.
And there they go.
Here they go. And you're going to have those high strokes that we talked about. They're quick 5 strokes, short strokes, because they're trying to accelerate that 2,000 pounds. And this is the men's Novice 8 grand final. Should be a great race.
Now, these are either, when they say novices, these are people that started rowing this year, meaning possibly back in the fall, but this is also a freshman novice race. So freshmen could be first-year rowers in college, but they may have 3 or 4 years or more of rowing experience in high school or even middle school.
Yeah, and I think the important statement is that their first year of collegiate rowing, whether they're experienced or whether they're an upperclassman coming out fresh and new. Right now, currently, George Washington University in lane 3 has jumped out to somewhat of a lead. You don't win the race in the start, but you want a good start.
Yeah, you want to feel like you've got some jump on the other crews. I mean, even if it's a seat, when you're talking about a seat, that's from, say the number 1 man, the bow man, to the 2 man, that's about 5 feet, 4 or 5 feet or something like that. But that's important off that start to feel like you've got confidence getting that bow out in front of another crew. But right now it is GWU, George Washington University, and Virginia that have that lead. And we're looking at lane 5 here, which is Purdue, and the inside and outside of those is Delaware in lane 2, crossing the 500-meter mark. It's fairly close, but it looks like GW still has that edge and maybe moving out just a little bit on Virginia.
I look at the picture here, and, I'm going back to some of the days when I rowed. This is why you train all year long for these minutes of being in this kind of competition. When you got crews right beside you, you're really trying to put it out. You're trying to make everything happen. And remember, we have seen some of those crews come out early and then fade late. We've seen GW and Virginia over the last couple of days. They're strong programs.
Well, you look at this Purdue crew here and look at the musculature on these guys and their legs going up and down. They are pushing that boat. They're propelling that boat past the oar. That if you've ever been in a gymnasium, done a leg press, that's exactly what they're doing. They're doing leg presses out there 240 times at 36 strokes a minute. That's pretty tough to do.
It is, and they've said the strength of a weightlifter and the grace of a ballerina, and that's really what you're doing. Is you're coming up very delicately, not trying to upset the boat, and then when you put the oar in the water, you become a weightlifter driving that boat forward.
All right, well, back to GWU. I'm watching them as they come down the course here, and they still hold that lead over Virginia. Looks like they've extended it a little bit. Again, each stroke gains an inch or 2 or 3.
Yeah, and I've got Virginia, at 36 strokes of rating right before the 1,000-meter mark. That's a really fairly high and solid for the body of the race.
Yeah, and look at GW now. They're not broken free yet, meaning they're still overlapping, but they have moved out a few more seats. So I would suspect that George Washington University might be, half to 2/3 of a length ahead of Virginia, but Virginia's right there. They're staying in contact and not letting them get away.
and GW is at 34.5. And, you know, if I reminisce a little bit about yesterday, I'm kind of thinking that George Washington has the attitude they need to be up in front of Virginia a little bit, because Virginia is a very strong program.
Oh, I think I would probably have that attitude.
Yeah, I think that, you know, they can't wait to the end to try to win this race. They got to take it to them right away.
Well, I've gotten Virginia at a rating of about 33 strokes a minute. Again, men's novice 8s here. George Washington University would appear to be still extending their lead slightly, but have not been able to open the water up between the two boats.
I have Purdue at 35. They're back a bit. I would say they're currently third. Fourth is outside on Delaware in lane 2. Fifth, probably Jacksonville. Maybe Jacksonville is actually in that fourth position. I think Jacksonville is in that fourth position in lane 6. Delaware is fifth, and the outside Washington U over in lane 1 is sixth as we come into the last 500 meters. These two crews, Casey, GW and Virginia, out in front by open water on the rest of the field, but Purdue's right there. Jacksonville and I'll say Delaware really battling for fourth and fifth.
Yeah, GW doing a nice job. You could expect Virginia now to be throwing all the shots they have, everything they got at this thing to try and pull in that gold medal here.
I mean, obviously, I'm going to say these are extremely talented novices, or these are a boatload full of experienced high schoolers.
Yeah, but that GW boat, I've got Virginia now at 36 going up. GW with that comfortable lead, but
they're at 36 as well.
Yep. So who's going to make it here? Who's going to throw it up? If you had the chance, Brad, you'd run that rate up to 40, 41, 42 strokes a minute. And
well,
see
I
if
think
you can't
you may
gain
have
it.
to. Now have we seen them do that in the past? Can they do that? You would assume they have. This is where that mental part that we talked about becomes so critical.
37.5 there for George Washington.
And I have 38 for Virginia.
And they're going up. Both crews going up. They're trying to run this rating through the roof to maintain their position.
Though. George Washington, nice control there. Look at how well they're rowing. They are really sending the boat. Lots of momentum. Exactly like you said, they are just keeping the momentum flowing. They're almost one full length as they go right here to the line. George Washington will come across first. Jacksonville on the inside, lane 6. Trying to work on Delaware on the outside, but Delaware will come across fourth. Jacksonville fifth by about a quarter deck behind Delaware.
And Washington University in lane 1 will be bringing up the balance of the event here today. Next race, Brad. Time's clicking right on, but we've already got to start the women's JV 8. That's the junior varsity 8A final.
Yeah, and in this we've got the A final. We've got the women's junior varsity 8 Jacksonville in the far lane from the camera. In lane 1, George Washington. Lane 2, Kansas State, their B crew in lane 3. Purdue, lane 4, and Kansas State, their A crew, showing a lot of depth. That's going to be a little confusing as we talk about Kansas State is in both lane 3 and 5. So they've got two crews that have made it here to the grand final of the women's junior varsity 8.
Well, if they had heats for this, you see the Kansas State B crew in lane 3. Does that mean they took down their A crew somewhere along the way?
Yeah, well, sometimes coaches may even call the A crew or the B crew just to give them a little more confidence. This is going to be fun between the two programs.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if B crews get points if they're called B crews, do they?
I don't recall those rules off the top of my head.
Yeah, so lane 2, George Washington. We've been saying that name for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, and I'm sure that sticks in the minds of those who just saw that last race. But George Washington University in the early lead here with the women's JV8 grand final.
Yeah, so in their lane 2, and you can see the bow ball there of lane 5, and that's Kansas State. That's the A crew. And look at them move, move right through George Washington, which is a great-looking shot here. Look at that camera angle there. You can see look at the length of those women as they reach out, place the oar in the water strongly with a nice attack on that catch and draw it all the way to their chest.
You know, we were talking in the last race about the musculature of the guys. Now you look at the ladies here. I mean, they're strong ladies. They are lean and mean, and they're fighting every inch of this bit.
Yeah, and you know, if you see the length that they're producing, the boat is really well set up for them. The oars are coming straight in towards their chest, and they're down and away, getting the oar up. The oars don't touch the water. You know, these are the junior varsity, so this is on their squad. This is the second 8 on their varsity team. You're going past the 1,000-meter
1,000-meter mark. It is Kansas State A boat in lane 5 that has a little bit of an edge over George Washington University in lane 2, probably about a deck length, maybe a tiny bit more. But early on, it looked like George Washington jumped out to that lead, but Kansas State A, maybe in the shift, or as they settle into the body of the race, they move their bows out in front.
Yeah, if I look down the course, I got George Washington, I got Purdue, and I've got Kansas State A. They seem very, very tight. The only George Washington out in front, but I'm going to say Purdue and Kansas State side by side, and they're really battling for. This is an A final, so we're for the medals here.
Yeah, there's a deck length separating Kansas State A and George Washington University. What we don't know, and looking down the course, there's another crew out there, and I think it's a crew. In lane 5, you said it was Purdue earlier. I think lane 5 is not far off this pace. We'll probably catch a glimpse of their bow here before too long.
Yeah, absolutely. And that Purdue crew is going to be, I'm going to say, third place. You know, I think Kansas State A in lane 5 is actually second, and we've got Kansas, the GW crew, in the current lead. So is George Washington, Casey? In my eyes, George Washington is getting moved on by Kansas on this lane 5. Lane 5 really coming on right here. Look at them move well. They got the white blades, and I think they're running down George Washington.
I think we saw when they were crossing 1,000 that K-State had a little bit of an edge over GW, and you're saying it still looks like the same thing, like K-State's starting to move away a little bit, huh?
Yeah, I think that's correct. Yeah, K-State, their A crew, at a rate of striking of 34.5, and George Washington may have come out too strong because they seem to be sliding back. Look at the Purdue crew.
That's what I'm looking at right now. Purdue crew looks like they could be trying to make that move into it. You know, they want to taste a little bit of that silver. I don't think they're going to catch that gold K-State crew at the moment, but Purdue.
Yeah, Purdue, you know, they have notoriously been very strong in the second half. They're usually a very large crew, and they just seem to run you down over time.
I got Purdue at 36 strokes a minute. I'd still believe that George Washington has them probably by overlap. I don't know about a full length, but K-State now has continued to move out on the field here.
Yeah, and this is for medals. So the people that are in that contention, you know, we've got K-State in lane 5. That's the A crew, the current leader. But, you know, that George Washington, it seems to be just hanging around there. Are they making a move again?
I think GW is trying to make up that ground. If they think they can get there, they're going to throw that rating up like we talked about before.
Yeah, GW is rowing very well. The blade work is very good. So I don't think they're going to catch this inside crew in lane 5, but they're certainly solid in second place. And let's see what happens here with this Purdue crew.
Well, Purdue's going to be, it looks like Purdue's going to hold third. It's actually fairly well spaced out here. K-State with an overlapping length over George Washington University. And GW a little bit of open water over Purdue.
Yeah, and so we've got Purdue coming across the line now in third, followed by Kansas State B in fourth. Jacksonville will round out the field of the 5 boats of this women's junior varsity 8.
All right, with these 7-minute centers, it doesn't take long to go back down to the other end of the course. They've started this race. They're past the 500-meter mark, so they started them a little bit early. This is the men's junior varsity 8 petite final or B final. And in lane 1, the far side of the course, again, is George Washington University. We hear that name again and again. You'll probably hear it all day long. All these crews make it into the petites and the grand finals. Lane 2, Purdue University. Lane 3, Oklahoma City. Lane 4, Delaware, and the toes 2 in the middle of the course. Lane 5, Virginia B Boat, and Lane 6, William and Mary.
You know what's kind of fun? I always like the junior varsity events. You know, they've always got some sort of edge. They're kind of edgy because they didn't make the varsity 8. They are the second 8, and they have something to prove just by getting in the boat.
You know, and that said, there's probably seniors in this boat have rowed 4 years. Maybe they had been in a varsity boat previously, but they don't always, you know, you can't always hold on to your seat, whether it's illness, injury, or one of those younger kids coming up that's a little bit better, a little faster.
Yeah, and the junior varsity is actually what makes the varsity faster because they're always on. They're ready to take the varsity seat anytime they can, and some of them could have been in the varsity boat last week.
Yeah, and you know, the JV boats are typically some of the toughest boats to work with because you got people that want to be in that varsity 8, and you may have some younger people that aren't as experienced. So sometimes they're the hardest ones to coach, although they're some of the most fun when they do well.
Yeah, and when you look down the course, you know, from this, they're just past the 1,000-meter mark, and this may be one of the tightest races we're going to talk about all day.
I agree. You know, you always look to the center of the course, and then you spread out to the sides and go, I'm not so sure that this is doing a V pattern this time. It looks to me like we have 3 boats, maybe potentially 4 boats that are in contention here, but I see lanes 2, 3, and 4 all running down the line here trying to reach those top 3 positions. But I would suggest that it's lane 4, Delaware.
Yeah, I think Delaware is the current leader but they're still in contact. Oklahoma City right beside them is, I'd say, in 3rd, and Purdue possibly is in 2nd. But, you know, it's going to tighten up here. We got Virginia. We know what they're capable of, and they're in the outside lane here. But they're back a full length. That Delaware crew.
36.
And they're looking really sharp, and we're 500 meters to go. So Delaware just doing a beautiful job. They got their blue uniforms on. You can see them very, very clearly in the center of the picture. To the left of them is that Virginia crew.
No. That blue,
wrong.
it's Oklahoma City in the
City.
Blue, and Delaware.
That's right.
Is looks like Delaware may be the one taking that edge up here. The lead, Oklahoma City at 35 strokes a minute. I had Delaware at 36 earlier.
Look at the outside now. You're looking at Purdue and George Washington. They're starting to move now on that Oklahoma City crew. So Purdue, I'm going to say, is drawing even or close to even, or they're trying to, on Oklahoma City, which was currently in 2nd place. But look at the outside.
4 boats here, 4 boats. Look, yeah, so look at GW.
1, lane 2, and lane 3, and lane 4. They're going to come.
Look at GW come through. Look at George Washington come through here.
Yeah, and it's all looking really tightening up here. Almost straight across, Casey. 36.5 for that lane 1 GW. They've made a great move to draw even. You know who's sliding back?
30. Yeah, Oklahoma.
Delaware.
And Oklahoma at 36 strokes a minute.
Back.
Look at the bows. It is lane 1, George Washington, that's putting on the sprint
yes.
to take this thing if they can hold on.
Can Purdue hold on to 2nd? Here comes Oklahoma City. They're going to challenge for 2nd. It's going to come to the line. Oklahoma City trying to get. Look at Oklahoma
look at
City.
that. It's going to be. Wow. Oh, it is.
Wow, that was fun. Was that fun? George Washington, I believe they came across first unofficially, then Oklahoma City, I think.
Oklahoma City took that 2nd, but I could not call that between Purdue and Virginia.
Purdue came down the last 200 meters in a solid 2nd position. Oklahoma came up, and I think Oklahoma may have nipped them for that 2nd place.
I'll tell you what, it was, you know, like you said, the sawing of the bows. You see one ahead and then the other head, and then one ahead and the other head, and it looks like Oklahoma's bow sawed out at just the right time.
Yeah, and you know that sawing is set up by this the stroke or going in the water, out of the water, the speed accelerating and slightly decelerating. When that happens, it may come down to just what part of the stroke are you on that will win the race.
All right, we've got the grand final here of the men's junior varsity 8. And they have actually started off in lane 1, Notre Dame A boat. In lane 2, University of North Carolina. In lane 3, Temple University. In lane 4, Purdue lightweights. Again, these are 160-pounders against big kids. And lane 5, Virginia. And lane 6, UC San Diego. But this is the A final for the medals of the men's junior varsity 8.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one. If anything that we just saw, and that was the B final that came across 4 boats within just a few feet of each other, hopefully it'll be something like a duplicate on this. Currently, lane 4. And Purdue being lightweights, they're
it looks like we've got some bow numbers that are a little bit different than. We got 2 bow number 4s out here. That is University of Virginia with in lane 5 that appears to have. Yeah, we've got some changes in our lane orders here. But my looking at the camera here before we get our lanes rearranged here, looks like Virginia has jumped out to that early lead. Yeah, we'll try and give you that quick rundown as soon as we can. Looks like Notre Dame A is closest to the camera here in lane 6.
So what we've got is
we'll get a quick rundown here. Brad, why don't you give us what we have on the lanes?
We have University of California, San Diego in lane 1. UNC is in lane 2. Temple is 3. University of Virginia is lane 4. Purdue lane 5. And Notre Dame is in outside lane 6. One of the things that is going to be confusing, Casey, is lane 4, UVA, and Purdue both have bow number 4. So you got UVA in lane 4, and you've got Purdue with the same bow marker in lane 5.
So for those who are watching, we will make sure we try and get this this squared away for you. They're coming through the 1,000-meter mark right now. And I'll go back to what we saw earlier. We are now seeing 2 boats out there with lane 4 markers, but it was University of Virginia that had that early lead, and we'll see how that comes out as they cross this 1,000 meters.
Yeah, UVA is currently in lane 4 and truly has the lane 4 marker on their boat as well, and they are the leader. But beside them, Purdue in lane 5 is in second, is the way I see it, and they also have bow marker number 4.
And UVA with a full boat length lead, probably even a little bit of open waters across the 1,000 over Purdue.
Yeah, and so Purdue in second place, they'll rate a striking of 34. Everybody seems to be in their race pace here. The other crew that we need to pay attention is over there in lane 2, UNC. White uniforms, they're in there, they're in the thick of it. They're, I would say, close or beside that Purdue crew in lane 5.
Well, it sure looks like that from the view of the camera. But yeah, UNC looks like they're actually doing a little bit of moving here. Again, they're going past that 1,000. This is a traditional area where a crew will take a 10 or a 20 stroke push to try and establish the final positioning as they go into the sprint.
Yeah, UNC at a rate of striking of 35.5. Purdue is down from that, but we've seen that before, 33.5 for Purdue. Virginia, the leader by a length and a bit over those 2 crews. This is the junior varsity men's 8A final. So, Casey, they're all racing for these 3 top medals.
Virginia at 37 strokes a minute. Again, we talked about the JVs and what they would like to do if they're going to be in the varsity. So what's the goal here? The goal here is to see how close they get to the V8 time if conditions are similar.
Absolutely. And, Virginia we know that they're in the grand finals for the varsity 8, and it doesn't. These two crews are probably pretty close in speed.
Look at the lineup now as we come across for the next round. Again, this is racing for medals here. Virginia clearly in the lead, definitely the stronger, more technically proficient crew, but racing for second inside here on lane 5, Purdue, and out there in the white shirts and white, blue and white blades with University of North Carolina.
Yeah, and I have Purdue at 35, and if you go North Carolina, let's check them out because they're staying down, but they're moved up. I have them at 36. So Carolina down currently in 3rd behind Purdue, but that may be where a big race there for second place.
I'd say Purdue's got that edge there as they come into the last few hundred meters now. 20 strokes to go. It is sprint time for these folks to get into the medals and establish their final position here if they haven't done so already.
UNC still down in their rating now. They just took it up a bit. Let's see if they can move better. They've got about 150, 200 meters here. Let's see what happens.
UNC is on the move. UNC in lane 2 is on the move. It's there after Purdue for that silver medal.
Yep, UNC moving faster than Purdue currently. Now look at Purdue responding. They're out of their puddles. Purdue out of their puddles at 37.
Purdue's got them by a foot as they go into the last 2 strokes.
Yep, here comes Purdue back. Look at them surge right there in the last 3 strokes. Purdue, UNC.
And Virginia with an open water win in the men's heavyweight JV8.
San Diego coming across in 5th, followed by Notre Dame on the inside, the Fighting Irish rounding out the field in 6th place. You know, as a spectator, I think it's really invaluable, this video, the streaming, and if you have the opportunity to go over to the tent where the TVs are, you know, the last 20 strokes of these races, time after time, have been game changers. You know, every time they come down, it's the last 20 strokes, and we see crews coming from behind and stealing from someone that led all the way down in a position, and all of a sudden somebody goes by them in the last 2 or 3 strokes.
You know, Brad, I've seen it again and again and again, although not here today, but I've seen boats a boat length down with 250, 300 meters to go, and they decide they're going to run that rating up. They'll go from, you know, you'll see them at 36, 37 strokes a minute all the way down the course, and you'll see a stroke or a boat as a whole throw that rating up to 41, 42, 43. I've seen crews go from 4th into the medals, into gold medal position, move an entire boat length in 250 meters just because they can run the rating through the roof with length.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about that sweet spot in tennis where you hit the ball just right, at golf, you hit the ball just right, or if you are a batter and you hit just that home run because it felt so good. There's something magical, and I think that's one of the things that oarsmen come back to, is that magical moment when at the last bit you're exhausted, you're in tunnel vision, and something starts to click and that boat just accelerates. And it really is magical. It's something you'll come back for every day.
It's the matching of the rowers is really what it is. The catch timing where you put the blade in the water, the release timing, and the movement of the bodies together as they swing together to take that next stroke. That's the feel.
Yeah, and I think it's greater than the sum of its parts. You know, you've got 8 people pulling and a coxswain driving, and all of a sudden the boat just seems to go airborne.
Yeah, and that's a good term. It feels like it's going airborne.
Really does fly. Feels like it's just magical. You ready to talk to us, Willie, for a second? Get your mouth full.
We're waiting here. We have a 10:35. We're 5 minutes away from the next race, which is a women's lightweight varsity 4. This is the grand final for that one. And again, they could start the race early if the rowers are ready to go. But just a quick rundown on the lanes here. This will be Liberty University in lane 1, University of Charleston in lane 2, University of Tampa in lane 3, University of Georgia in lane 4, Stetson University in lane 5, and in lane 6, University of Florida. This will be the upcoming women's lightweight varsity 4 grand final.
Yeah, and this should be a good race just because of, again, the match sizes. Up here in the tower, we've got Willie Black from the United States Rowing Association, and in charge of bringing this video streaming on YouTube, and really exciting that this is a part of this. Is the first time that the SIRAs have used your talents to make this happen. Give us a rundown of what you do and where else is it you're making this happen?
Well, we're going to broadcast 16 events this year. Most of them are U.S. rowing events like our National Selection Regatta, our National Championships. The Youth National Championships will be at this venue the second weekend in June. And but we also do other events like the SIRAs, the Scholastics, the ACCs, the Big East Championships. And we started this 4 years ago, and on the cheap, tried to figure out a way to broadcast races with a camera in the boat. And we spent a winter and figured it out. You know, you have $150,000. It's an easy process. You can buy this stuff off the shelf. But for $1.95, you got to do a little research. And so we did, and we started with our own events, but then we got asked to do some other events, and so now we hire ourselves out to the SIRAs and the Big East and others. Last weekend we were in Washington, D.C. at the GW Invite and streamed that live. And so it's been pretty exciting. One of the goals is to get more rowing on the internet. We definitely wanted to do our events live, but we also wanted to get more events on the internet and just more exposure for the sport. And it's starting to happen. Like every weekend now, there's 4, 5, 6 events that are being streamed live around the country. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and as we get ready to run this women's lightweight 4 final, and in closing up, I want to just say that, you know, you had some races that you've broadcast where you've had 30,000 hits on it. So a group of people are watching this.
Yep, and it's great for the people who couldn't attend the event, alumni. So it's just really good all the way around. We're really happy to do it.
Well, thank you very much, Willie Black, and I appreciate everything you're doing to make this possible for the SIRA, and it's been wonderful to be a part of it here in the Tower. We've got the start of the women's lightweight for the A final, so these obviously will be coming down the race course for a medal. In contention, we have the Cruise, as Casey mentioned a minute before, Liberty in lane 1, Charleston lane 2, Tampa in the center at 3, Georgia is in 4, Stetson from Florida is in 5, and University of Florida, Gainesville, the Fighting Gators in the outside lane, closest to the camera in lane 6. Currently, we have lane 1, Liberty, the leader as they go across the 500-meter mark. And you can see on the video screen that 5, that would be Stetson, is in 2nd, followed by Tampa in 3rd. And you look across here from the video, this is a great situation. These are lightweights, so they're all pretty much matched as far as size and weight. They cannot exceed a minimum weight, a maximum weight, and so therefore they're evenly matched in their horsepower situation. So look at as we look across those 3 leaders, outside lane, that would be Liberty, currently what was in the lead, but you know, look at 3, Tampa moving up, and even 5 just down a little bit. That's Stetson in lane 5 there. You see the bow is about 3 or 4 seats down from them, moving as much as 1 length down. But those 2 leaders, Liberty and Tampa, out in front. You're getting a little shot there of University of Charleston, lane 2, across there. And you see the referee launch. You know, our referees, we have to talk about them. Your referees do this 100% on the volunteer basis. They're all over the race course. They are the ones in charge of the starting. They follow in the chase boats to make sure that the racing is fair. And if there was a problem where one of the athletes actually got hurt or fell out of the boat, that they would be there to respond. And then you've got the officials up in the tower judging the finish line. So as we move back in the field, you see Florida here on the inside lane, video-wise, in lane 6, back off the pace, and lane 5, Stetson as well, right beside them. But the leaders out there in front, they were Charleston, Liberty, and Tampa, and they were all pretty much side by side. So let's see, as the camera angle comes back and I go and look down the field, I'll tell you what's going on. But good-looking race. This is the women's lightweight varsity 4. It's an A final, grand final, so they will be going for medals. You can see them going across the 1,000-meter mark as we saw that flash on the video screen. Lane 3, slight advantage. That's Tampa, University of Tampa, and they are going to be challenged as we're sitting here watching that by Liberty on the outside lane. Liberty, we talked about them a little bit earlier today. Liberty coming on nicely in this women's category, this women's lightweight 4, side by side, stroke for stroke. That's a great shot right there. You've got the coxswains. All you can see is them of the head of their sticking out. Their body is down in a cockpit, and their legs up underneath the decking there of the bow of that boat. A lot like a dragster, in my opinion. You've got the horsepower behind you. Look at how Tampa making a little bit advantage over it now. This is the first separation we had. The coxswain from Tampa, if she looked to her left, she would see the bow, so she's got just a deck advantage over the rest of the field. So the center of the race course in red with red blades, that's Tampa, the leader. But look at lane 1, Liberty is hanging on. Lane 1, Liberty, and currently in second, and being challenged by Stetson in lane 5. Stetson and Liberty now fighting for that second position. Remember, we have 3 medals to give out. The outside lane, Florida, back a ways. We've got Georgia further back, and we've got Charleston further back. So the race is really going to come down to these 3 crews, which is Liberty in lane 1, Tampa in the center lane, out in front by open water, and Stetson making a real run on that Charleston crew, Liberty crew on the inside. Liberty and Stetson are the ones that are going to really have to fight here, and they are closing up, Casey, on that Tampa crew. Tampa has been the leader pretty much all the way, but it's been a really slender lead until just recently. Tampa's pulled out about a length, but I see Stetson and Liberty trying to close on them.
Tampa has such a history in the women's lightweight 4s events. There are some trophies named after them at the national championships after one of their rowers or coaches. They've just done a great job over the years of being perennial powerhouses in women's lightweight rowing.
There's a little bit of a breeze out there, and Tampa took a couple bad strokes, and I think they've opened the door for this Liberty crew on the outside to move up on them a bit. Tampa was almost a linked-out advantage over Liberty, but Liberty is not in first, but they're trying to move up into it.
34.5 strokes a minute for Liberty. Tampa, again, they're feeling the heat. You can imagine that these girls are trying to stay calm and under control, but they've got to keep hitting it harder and harder. Tampa at 36 strokes a minute. Liberty, again, here we go. If they've got the ability to move that rating and keep their length, they might be able to pull it down. But I think Tampa is still holding on to about, a half a length, you'd say?
Yeah, I'd say it's at least a deck length and maybe a seat. And Tampa has sharpened themselves up here. They were fluttering a little bit back 200 meters, but Tampa has sharpened it up. They're not up in the 40s yet. They're still around 36. Let's see what happens. But Tampa, I think, is going to secure this right here. Look at Tampa now.
36 strokes a minute.
Yeah, Tampa pushing it up.
Grand
and look at them
final.
Move forward.
And University of Tampa.
Second, Liberty across the line. Look at the exhaustion. You can't see it now as the boats slide out of view, but Liberty on their backs, flat, tired. That was Florida coming across in 4th. Stetson from also in the Florida area coming across in 3rd. Charleston coming across 5th, and rounding out the field here is Georgia in the center, lane 4. Get that cool down shot now from the camera. Those women gave it all they can. The ones that you can see that don't seem so tired right there in lane 5. Look at that outside lane. I mean, they are expended.
They are spent.
They are spent. They've gave it all. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do, right?
Well, yeah, you know, in Brad, when you got rowers laying down like that, the referees, one of their jobs is to make sure all these rowers are okay. And they will go around. If they don't see that girl sit up soon, they'll go over and make sure she is, in fact, okay.
Yeah, I mean, obviously she's got her hand up. She's got her, she's giving congratulations. She's laying down, but she can reach back to her bow lady and giving a high five to her.
She's still got her hand on an oar, so she's right there. She's just taking a break.
Yep.
Well deserved. Well deserved.
Yep, that was a great finish there. And that was in the women's lightweight varsity 8. You know, these are varsity oars people, but remember, they're a smaller athlete, longer race for them.
Yep, that's right. And as we go back to the cameras here, we're looking a long camera down the course of the men's lightweight varsity 4, the B final, again, petite final. This is for places 7 through 12. Samford University out of Birmingham, Alabama in lane 1 on the outside. Purdue University in lane 2. UNC, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill in lane 3. Clemson University in 4. Florida State in 5. And University of Georgia in lane 6.
You know, again, we're going to gravitate towards that center, but I got UNC with the white blades. That obviously shows up a little bit quicker, but I'm going to say Clemson is probably the leader here. Clemson in lane 4 seems to me to be slightly advantaged over the, but, you know, if you go even further, Florida State, they rode well yesterday, and Florida State right there. So you got 3 crews, lane 5, 4, and 3. I believe they're pretty dead heat right there.
It looks pretty close from here. There'd be no way to call that. Although you look at the crew in lane 3, UNC has got the white jersey and the white blades. Again, your eyes go straight to that because it shows up so well. But I think you might be calling that right with Clemson and Florida State. I mean, these crews are got to be all over each other.
Yeah, and Florida State yesterday did a great job, and I remember them. This is going to be a fun crew to watch. They did a great job, and but you know, let's not take away anything from anybody. But that means that this is going to be a fun race as it goes down. So if you're not next to the screen, move towards it because this is going to be a tight finish, I believe, as it comes down.
I got Clemson at 34 strokes a minute. I've got UNC at 34 strokes a minute. Clemson at 33.5. So almost stroke for stroke here. And we talk stroke for stroke. That means the rate or the number of beats per minute is about the same. No different in heart rate. They're just a little bit lower in the 30s here, although I'm sure their heart rates aren't in that range.
Yeah, and I have Florida State at 35.5. And you know, crews, you know, some crews move better at 34 or 33 than they do at 35. And we watched some of the Purdue's and the Virginias at a lower rating during this middle of the body, and then they sprint so strongly. You know, so, you know, a stroke rating doesn't mean that you're winning, but it does if you're too high. You may not have room to go later.
Yeah, you know, Brad, and you talk a little bit about stroke rate. Some of these boats have what they call a magic number where they work really well at a certain rating, and it seems to prove itself year after year no matter what the crew is, as long as the crew rows similarly. But look at these crews here. You've got, it looks to be in lane 4, as you mentioned earlier, could be Clemson. Looks like they've got that lead. Florida State right there, UNC right there, and even over in lane 2, looks like Purdue is nearby. I mean, they're within striking range at least at this point, but Clemson showing that the signs of that last 500 lead here. If they can bring it on home, it could be Clemson on this petite final win.
Yeah, and what I see is that Clemson is now gotten somewhat of a lead. I was thinking that Florida State was sliding back, but, you know, I was worried that Purdue might come up and get Florida State, but Florida State seems to resurged here.
I think Clemson is actually moving out on the field. I think this last 500, they're starting to work themselves away from the group here, where it was overlapping early on. Now I think they're starting to get that rhythm, get that sense of swing and drive, and they're starting to move out.
And I think Florida State's going right with them. You know, a moment ago I thought Florida State was starting to fade, but I think they're Florida State in a solid second position. But UNC and Purdue cannot be counted out. You know, who's going to get the third place medal is still to be seen. Purdue and UNC appear to be battling for third, but, you know, we've seen some really great
I'm getting
finishes.
Florida State at 39 strokes a minute. I think they're trying to haul down that leader at Clemson, although I don't think they're going to get it. Clemson's got too much on them, but we talked about these crews running the rating up, trying to do it with length. But Florida State now at 39 strokes a minute, maybe even close to 40.
I'm going to say Purdue is moving on UNC on the outside, so we got to keep them in the radar. You know, again, I think for second place, I think it's just closed up. Second place is in question.
UNC at 37, Clemson rowing
Purdue's coming through.
38, Clemson at 37.5, 38. So all these crews are up there. Look at the race for second here. This is only the petite final, but I tell you what, it's bow to bow for second in this race.
Yeah, look at now. Here goes Florida State. Look at them pick it up.
Yep.
What a nice move right there. Florida State squirting forward on that last 3 strokes, 4 strokes. Third place is in question, isn't it?
If I had to throw it out there, I'd venture a UNC third.
Yeah, what a great move there. You know, that extra gear, you see it again with Florida State. Florida State, you know, seeming to be deadlocked tied for I'm going to say second, third, fourth, and then in 5 strokes they take it up at the right moment and secure second.
Well, you know, both Florida and Florida State, Brad, are state schools down there, and so they get a lot of the Florida rowers. You know, there's 40-some-odd junior programs down in Florida, and so a lot of those kids stay within the state, and it's very, very competitive to get into those schools. I mean, you got to have great academics to get in those schools. It's not a walk-in. And so your rowing programs, these club rowing programs, can get high-level high school athletes that know how to row in there, and that's what you're seeing here, I think, is the Florida and Florida State crews are doing better and better every year as they get more established as strong clubs.
Yeah, and that's exciting. You know, again, it's thrilling to me to be a part of this video streaming, because the people on the shore wouldn't see that finish unless it was watching through this video. They can't all be standing at the finish line. That's where things have been changing. The final strokes are where the races are being won and lost.
Well, again, this is the first time we've been able to do this here at the Southern Intercollegiate Rowing Association Championships, and what fun it has been, not only for us to do this here, but all those who are watching out there. We continue to get responses out there for, you know, just the fact that we're giving live coverage out there. People who want to know, you know, how's my son doing? I can't get to the regatta today, but if they're online, they're going to know exactly how these boats are doing. And we're back to the men's lightweight 4 grand final. This is in lane 1, Delaware. In lane 2, College of Charleston. In lane 3, University of Virginia. In lane 4, Virginia Commonwealth University. In lane 5, Georgia Tech. And in lane 6, Florida. Current leader right out of the blocks is Virginia. In lane 3, and we're not going to be able to give you a second place when they're like we're watching College of Charleston in the far lane, in lane 2 over there in the background could be in second, but it's too early to call, but it looks like that's possible. Look at the 3 bows coming across here in lanes 4, 5, and 6. That's VCU, Georgia Tech, and Florida, trailing a little bit behind those other crews. The only one I don't see in here is Delaware and the blue boat on the far side. Now you see them on the far side of the course. But the leaders here, College of Charleston and Virginia, with Virginia the edge early on. As they cross the 500 meters, it is University of Virginia with a half a boat length lead over College of Charleston. College of Charleston with about a deck length lead over Georgia Tech in lane 5. And Georgia Tech making some moves here in this second 500. We'll see if Georgia Tech has the ability to edge into College of Charleston. But College of Charleston still holding on. You can see the buoys go by. The camera boat almost level with the buoys. College of Charleston with about a third of a length over Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech with about a foot or 2 over Virginia Commonwealth, who may have its bow to bow with Virginia Commonwealth and University of Florida. There's no difference between the two at this point. Great shot of the cruise lanes 6, 5, and 4 there. That is University of Florida nearest to us. Georgia Tech in lane 5 and VCU in lane 4 there. Now coming to the picture, University of that's College of Charleston over there, and now you see the stern of the Virginia boat. Stern of the Virginia boat having broken free from the group there with a little bit of open water. And they're in that second 500. This is where the crews have to settle down. They've already settled down into their base rate, what the coaches want them to row at. They don't go out there and just decide what they want to do out there. This is stuff they've practiced again and again. And now at the 1,000-meter mark, Virginia has continued to move a little bit further away, breaking free of the bow of College of Charleston. College of Charleston still in second by about the same margin they were before. Now over, looks like VCU in lane 4 by about a quarter boat length. VCU moving up a little bit on Georgia Tech. Establishing the positions again. This is for the medals with Virginia in front. College of Charleston in second right now, and VCU in third. Great racing. VCU now coming up. Now VCU has edged up into the bow area of College of Charleston. They are now moving. VCU making a move here as they go through that 1,000. Now coming up almost level with College of Charleston. College of Charleston's going to have to answer to them if they don't. VCU is going to get through them. But third 500, the toughest quarter of the race for these crews. This is when the body and the mind start saying, I've had enough, and you got to keep that out of there. You've got to keep your focus in the boat. And now you see VCU now, what you consider to be level with College of Charleston, bow to bow for second. VCU still moving a little bit, maybe an inch or two at a time, but it's enough to get that bow just ahead of Charleston. But it's almost too close to call. Now Charleston answering the coxswain, asking for it, looking across. Charleston now put their bow ahead by a foot, but it's Virginia out in front with open water as they come into the third 500 with about 700 meters to go, maybe 600 meters to go. So we saw College of Charleston in second position by almost a half a boat length over VCU. VCU makes that move back up into College of Charleston, took the lead briefly, and then College of Charleston answers that with a counter move, and now has about a 2-foot lead for that second position for the silver medal.
We have Virginia at 33.5, Casey. And they are the leader by open water, as you've been calling. And then VCU currently second, maybe. And then you look at Georgia Tech and in the inside lane, Florida in lane 6. Really tight for that second position. I don't think there's any way that we could predict how it's going to finish up for these medals in the top 3 positions. With the only boat that's in the lead at this point is Virginia, and the rest is fairly close.
Well, we've been trading leads here between VCU and College of Charleston. Charleston had half a length early on, Brad, and then it was VCU that made up that distance, put their nose out in front. Charleston took it back by a few feet, and now I think VCU again may have taken that lead back again. So a few lead changes here for this second place position. For the medals now, it is University of Virginia with a length of open water over VCU and College of Charleston. And it is VCU now that has an advantage as they go into the last 5 strokes, 10 strokes of the race. Virginia, VCU, College of Charleston. And for the 4th and 5th, it is University of Florida and Georgia Tech in that order. And far side of the course, bringing up the end of the race here is University of Delaware, the Blue Hens. If you notice out there, we are making progress from the novice events, the B-level events, the junior varsity events, the lightweight events, and now we're moving into the varsity events. We have the women's varsity 4, the petite final coming up, and you'll see right after that the A final, the grand final. Then we move into the men's varsity 4 events, and then the varsity 8s come, the women's and the men's. So we have six or eight events left to go, but these are all the varsity boats.
And Casey, each one of these events is going to get faster. So, you know, if you have the opportunity to get logged on or to be a part of being on the shore, this is really the time to start to watch, because we've had great races, but it's going to get even more exciting, and the speed of these races are going to pick up drastically.
And ready for split?
Yes, sir. Yeah, Jim, Brad here.
4.6.
So we have this this women's varsity 4 B final underway right now in lane 1, Jacksonville University. In lane 2, Virginia Tech. Lane 3, George Washington University. Lane 4, James Madison. Lane 5, Tampa. In lane 6, University of Charleston. And you recall Tampa just recently won the women's lightweight varsity 4 with a gold medal in that grand final. So we'll see what happens here with this group.
And this is a B final, so this is setting the cadence for crews 7 through 13 in their ranking here at the Southern Intercollegiate Rowing Association Championships here, which were yesterday. We ran 76 races, and we're finishing up now with our last about 10 races here to round out this regatta.
Yeah, you would think a lot of times all these rowers that going back in would be run over to the shoreline. They try to do that, but they also have to take their boats apart and load the trailers, which is a big job at the end of the day. Not everyone gets a chance to go see their teammates race.
Yeah, you know, if you really look along the shoreline and around the trailers, it's a constant motion. You know, between boats coming out, boats being de-rigged, put on the trailers, another crew's warming up and going. So all day long, a lot of time the coaches aren't able to even get out and see, because they've got the next crew, especially some of these bigger programs that have so many boats on the water.
Yeah, and that said, from the trailer venue area, you cannot see the boats go by. I mean, you can actually climb up on top of your trailers. You still can't see it. There's trees and tents and things. So for the opportunity to see how your crew's doing when they're going by, you really kind of have to go over to the water itself.
Well, as we go looking out over the course here now, Casey, we can see that the crews are coming down, and you know, it's center of the race course. I've got lane 5, Tampa, and George Washington in 3 seem to be the ones out on the field a bit. George Washington, I'll say, the leader, and Tampa in 2nd.
I would agree with you there. And looking in that 3rd place position, looks like James Madison in lane 4 at this time, although that's going to be pretty close for some of the other lanes nearby to them. But I believe you're right, a GWU out in the lead with University of Tampa in the 2nd spot.
Yeah, now, of course, these race, because it is a B final, a petite final, it does not have medals involved. But, you know, there's a lot of pride, and these guys don't just shut off their competition in the middle of a race.
No, there is no, we'll take it out to the 1,000 and see what happens. It's race all the way down. Full-blown racing strategy, everything you can. And even on the fly, you might have areas where you want to do certain things, but you have to race these guys. If they're going to change things around, you got to step up to the challenge and race them down the course regardless of your strategy.
Yeah, and I have Tampa, which is right there beside George Washington. I have Tampa at 31 and George Washington at 33. So Tampa's understroking and staying right there with them. I can't tell from this vantage point if they truly, whether if it's Tampa or George Washington as the leader, it's really that close. But you know, Tampa has a lot of room to move here in the last 500 meters.
You know, Brad, I'm looking at the consistency of the catches of the 2 leading crews here. That's George Washington University and Tampa. And I was watching Tampa a little bit earlier, and I saw a little bit of, you see a little bit of hitting first on one side and the other boat, but they're still right up there. But you look at GW, and they seem to be fairly even, both port and starboard sides, each time, more consistent each time. And I think you're going to see GW with a little bit of a lead here.
Well, and I was going to say the other thing the other way. I was watching Tampa. They seemed over the last, while you were doing that talk, that I thought that they had sharpened a little bit. I agreed with you that they were fluttering back. But, you know, I think this is going to be a great finish for this 1-2 position.
So you're hitting right on it. It comes and goes, whether it's a wind condition or whether it's concentration or you name it. You'll see these crews hit, you know, some of these strokes at perfect, and the boat will jet out on them. And then other times they'll bobble a little bit and it'll slow down a little bit. So it's how many good ones you can put in a row and all the way down the course.
Yeah, and this is the difference between, let's say, the A final and the B final. The A final people potentially hit it more than they miss. B final people do flutter a little bit because they're maybe a younger athlete.
I think this is almost dead level here, Brad. I still can't call this. They're going to 250 to go, and I don't know. I want to say GW has that edge. Do you?
Yeah, I would say GW does, but, you know, I like Tampa moving up here. Tampa seems to be cleaning up again. GW is at 32. Tampa has moved up. I got them at 35. So let's see how it finishes here. You know, GW has a lot of stroke rating. There goes GW. They're moving their rating up as well. Listen to the coxswain's call.
Yep.
You can hear those coxswains. They've got the whip out. GW making a nice, strong move here. Look at Casey. They've lengthened and they've strengthened. They really haven't pushed the rating up.
Now, I'm watching the bow girl in the GW4 reach out and hook that blade in. She's trying to keep that length and keep that bow out in front. I mean, she's going to be the first one across the line in the rowers.
You know that you're fading. Physically, you're fading, and visually, you're getting into tunnel vision, and it's so important to stay focused on getting that oar in the water at the right moment.
And GW did a good job of that, right? That last 250.
Yeah, and they really strengthened that as we get these other crews coming across the line. Virginia Tech heading to the line next in fourth. Outside lane, Jacksonville will come in at fifth. And we got University of Charleston will come across, rounding out the field in sixth.
That was James Madison was the crew that came through in that third spot behind GW in Tampa. And we have a start of the grand final of the women's varsity 4. Brad, right up the start, you can see the cameras up there, got them right out of the blocks, and these are going to be the ones for the medals, as you know. VCU in 1, Nova Southeastern in lane 2, K-State in 3, Central Oklahoma in 4, Florida State in 5, and Stetson in 6.
Yeah, and what some great shots here as you go to the video there. You got lane 3. That's Kansas State. We've seen them before. They seem to be the leader and moving out. Look how nice and steady their boat is, and look at the length that they've got. Reaching and dropping the blade in with a nice solid catch. That's a great looking shot.
Well, you know, a lot of people think rowing is a lot of arms, but if you look at the photos here or the video, these girls are hooking with long straight arms, and they're using the legs to push and the back to pry. They're not pulling with the arms early on, only at the tail end of the drive of the stroke.
Yeah, something that just went out of the picture. But if you look at Kansas State, look how fast their legs are going down. I mean, they are snapping them down. They are really, really accelerating that boat on that drive. They look pretty fresh.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think they're, going up to the 500-meter mark right here, and we'll see what they got. But K-State, lane 3, looks like they got an early lead. I'm not going to call it for anybody after that.
No, you've got Central Oklahoma in the video there, and we're going past the 500 that appears to be in second. And then Florida State closer to us. This is that crew right in that you're looking at the dark silhouette.
The dark boat there.
Yep, that's Florida State currently in third. So it's really lane 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's first, second, and third.
Okay, State looks like they're definitely moving out. They might even be breaking free of the field here as they went through that 500 meters and now going into the mid portion of that second quarter of the race. Nova Southeastern there, you see them in the video in lane 2. VCU in the far side. Nova Southeastern doing a great job. That's that crew from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. One of the Division II crews out here.
Yeah, nice shot. Look how steady this bow is going in this lane 6 Stetson. They're rowing well. They're not up in the lead, but they're rowing well, and you can see how nicely the boat is being a really steady speed. There's not a lot of stopping that boat between strokes.
You know, the different colors, we talk about the Duke blue earlier. Well, Stetson's colors are hunter green, and that's what the color of their boat is.
Yeah, and it's really bright, easy to see when it comes into view. Well, Casey, they seem to be about 750 meters down the course. They're starting to come into view here from the tower with the naked eye. They're still 3/4 of a mile away, but, you know, a very tight-looking race as I look down the course.
Yeah, I would still say certainly K-State has that lead, but you know, it may not be by much. I think we're starting to see some push from Florida State here against the K-State lead. I can't tell from the buoys. I might be looking at the wrong angle here, but as you cross 1,000, K-State has it, but it's very, very close. I'd say lanes 4, Central Oklahoma, and lane 5, Florida State, have actually come up. But look at K-State now. They cross 1,000. They're just probably putting a 20 in here to try and break free and see if they can't crack these other crews.
Yeah, and sometimes when you got Central Oklahoma and Florida State working so closely together, they're really not paying attention maybe to K-State. They've got their own battle right there beside them, and sometimes that's a big advantage just to have a boat beside you, because working together, you're going to run down K-State possibly.
Well, you know, I'm going to say something about Central Oklahoma here. Central Oklahoma is also a Division II program, and Nova Southeastern, the other Division II program in here, these two are battling for ranking rights for the NCAA. So Nova is trying to hang on to Central Oklahoma, see if they can't, you know, take them down, and Central Oklahoma is going to do all they can to prevent that from happening.
The leader, Kansas State, at 33. They do look comfortable. You know, it's hard to see them in the video, but I'm watching them here now live with my naked eye, and they are out in front by a length over the other field. But, you know, what's great is you still have two people vying for that silver medal that for sure between Oklahoma and Florida State, we don't know who's going to get that silver medal out of those two.
Well, Nova is moving up now. Nova's bow is starting to move up, and they are now challenging Florida State. They may even have them. Nova making a move here. Florida State even slipping back a little bit, like maybe losing a little bit of their finesse. K-State out in front, but Nova's starting to do some damage out there in the field as they move away from VCU and apparently moving a little bit out on Florida State as well.
Well, if history says anything, I would watch Nova. You know, they may not win this race, but they're a very solid program, so they could have a nice finish here. They still got 600 meters before we get to the finish line. There is enough real estate for them to do some damage in the silver and bronze category medals.
Well, looking down the broad level of the course here, it is K-State that is the leader. Looking outside of them, Central Oklahoma. Outside of them, Florida State. Inside, you go back to Nova Southeastern, but it appears to be K-State in control, followed by Central Oklahoma. But I see some challenges occurring here between Florida State. I thought Nova may have overtaken Florida State. I'm not so sure of that anymore.
No, I think Nova maybe had a surge there at the 1,000 and is sliding back again. Or let's benefit Florida State and Central Oklahoma. I think they drew back away, realizing there was a move. But I think it's a lot tighter than it visually is between Florida State and Central Oklahoma. I think the colors of Central Oklahoma being white blades are shirts. I think they appear to be ahead, but I think it's Florida State that's in second.
Well, I'm sure we'll see that very shortly here as they come into the sprint area, the 250 meters to go. It's K-State first into the red buoys. Let's see if we can pick out who makes the next run in the buoys. But it is, you're right, Brad, it's very, very level. Florida State and Central Oklahoma and Nova.
Nova at 36.5. They're trying to move right there.
Well, they're trying to get past that Oklahoma crew for that Division II rankings. Florida State, I think, is getting
sliding back.
They're slipping back a little bit. Nova jumping on it here, trying to gain that opportunity.
Look at Nova go. Nova is going past Florida State, in my opinion, and now they're challenging Central Oklahoma.
Boy, you can hear them. Just the coxswains giving it all they have, trying to urge the last ounce of energy out of these crews. And it's bow to bow between Central Oklahoma and Nova, but Central Oklahoma still has the edge as they go to 5 strokes to go.
Yep, Central Oklahoma responding really well right here at the last second. Nova had to come up. Nova's going to come across third, but Nova had to come from behind, and I think they started to fade. It was very, very smart move by Central Oklahoma in the last 4 or 5 strokes. They surged just at the right time.
And it was Florida State in 4th, just nipping out VCU on the far side, with Stetson here bringing up the final spot.
We're on 7-minute centers, Casey, and therefore our next race is going to start here in the next minute or two. We're also going to try to do something a little different as we finish up these races. We're going to go try to bring some play-by-play to the trailer and the peninsula area here on the course. So we'll be working on that in the next couple races, see if that works out and has fun for everybody.
B-level final here, the men's varsity 4. That's the 11-13 event. We're about a minute ahead. It's already off the blocks. And Purdue University, lane 1. Jacksonville University, lane 2. Temple in 3. Notre Dame in 4. University of Texas in 5. And Georgia Tech in 6. Again, this is the petite final of the men's varsity 4 that's underway right now. Started about less than a minute ago. As we're resetting a couple of things up here, we're watching the video screen of the men's varsity 4B final, and at this point there's no ability to discern who might be leading here. Again, we look to the center lanes, looking at Jacksonville and Temple. Right now, Notre Dame has been perennially the whole day here, and the other events contenders in here.
Yeah, and there's some good rivalries going in here. We've got Jacksonville, Temple. They really like to go at it. They've done it many, many times. That's a good battle in second, lane 2 and lane 3. Notre Dame, remember them from yesterday. I mean, they're just a solid crew. Obviously, Texas and Jacksonville placed second in their semifinals. Temple and, they were in the just out of the A final, and placing there faster than Jacksonville and Texas in the outside lanes.
Well, I'm trying to, from the camera, I'm sure the people watching TVs right now, looks to me, at least on the 4 crews closest to Shoreline, Temple may have that advantage there. I can just see the blades of Jacksonville outside of Temple, but it looks like Temple University might have that first 500-meter lead, and actually it could be a decent lead here. Well, you look back down that course. You know, I'll look in the center of the course there at lane 3. Temple looks to be out on the field, but I'm not so sure there's much ability to discern what's after that. I think JU in lane 2 may be in viable second position, but also 4, 5, and 6 all right there. Georgia Tech in lane 6 closest to the Shoreline, clearly in contention. Lane 5, which is Texas, has got to be right there too. Maybe back just a tiny bit, but I think Georgia Tech might be one of the ones up there with JU over in lane 2.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think we've got Temple as the lead there, and then we've got Georgia Tech in second, and I think Jacksonville possibly third, but I think you could throw a blanket over Georgia Tech and Jacksonville.
That's a big blanket all the way across the course.
Yeah, and that is a disadvantage, really, when you go looking, you got 3 lanes between you. They've got to be working on the lane next to them. But, when Coxon doesn't necessarily look across 4 lanes.
Look at JU now. We're calling Temple the first half of the race. They're past that 1,000 meters going into 600 meters to go. Jacksonville looks like they've actually stepped it up, which they're known to do in that third 500. Temple certainly holding it, but there's a bunch of boats across here, Brad. Look at Georgia. Look at lanes 2 through 6. It's not that much difference.
No.
I'm not so sure Temple has the lead we thought they had early on, and Jacksonville really pushing the envelope here. Georgia Tech really pushing it.
Yeah,
This is a really close race. Look at this coming down.
Yeah, and Temple's lead is being eroded very, very quickly. I think, even Notre Dame is back in contact. They were open water. Look at Notre Dame is now only half a length down.
Yeah.
And they're, I'm going to say, in 4th. And so, this Georgia Tech boat.
Georgia Tech now in lane 6 could be coming through the field here.
Yeah.
Jacksonville looks like they've come through Temple. Temple had that lead. Jacksonville coming through Temple, and I think Brad, I think it could be Georgia Tech and Jacksonville.
I have Jacksonville at 39, so they are going for it now. We saw Jacksonville in a couple races yesterday in very high sprints, so Jacksonville definitely has moved through Temple, but Georgia Tech, I think, is a leader. But look at the crew right beside them, Texas. Look at them come up. Here comes Texas.
We got Georgia Tech at 36. I think Georgia Tech has a little bit of advantage. Texas coming up too. Texas has gone through Temple. Texas has gone through Notre Dame. Jacksonville. It's Jacksonville and Georgia Tech, Brad.
Yep, and look at Jacksonville rating now 41, and they still got 20 strokes to go.
What did I tell you about jacking that rating up to a 40-something to get through these crews? That's exactly what JU's doing. They've jumped a length here as they run that rating over 40 strokes a minute.
Jacksonville needs to stay long in order to hold them off because
they've got Georgia Tech here. Look at 4 boats for second here.
Oh, look at this. Look at this coming in for second. This is going to be one that's going to be tough to figure out.
JU got that lead. Georgia Tech 2 feet over
first.
Texas.
Oh, look at that. What an awesome race.
Brad,
awesome
that
race.
was classic sprinting by JU, going from 36 strokes a minute to 41 with 250 meters to go, and they pulled through the field.
If you go back to the 1,000-meter mark on that, Jacksonville we didn't even talk about them. They were so far back at the 1,000-meter.
All right, we've got our next race going on. I hate to jump that quick, but here we go. This is the men's varsity 4A final. Rollins College in lane 1, University of Florida lane 2. In the middle, of course, Florida Tech in lane 3. In lane 4, Virginia. In lane 5, Clemson. In lane 6, Duke. And the currently leader right out of the blocks is the striped shirts and dark boat of Florida Institute of Technology with almost a boat-length lead right out of the start.
Right, Casey. You can see that stern of that dark boat just literally one boat length the rest of the field. But now look at the rest of the field. It's dead heat for that second place.
Dead heat. Rollins over there in the far lane in lane 1, sitting next to Florida in lane 2. But it is the Florida Institute of Technology with that powerful start that I've heard other coaches talk about here today as they jump out on the lead. And this is really, really good for FIT to be able to do so because they can begin to think about controlling the race. They have time to settle into the body and feel the power and the leverage that they can put out there. Look at they're opening up open water already.
Yeah, and I don't want to take anything away from Florida Tech because they are a great program perennially. They do a really nice job. Here we are crossing the 500. But, we've seen several crews in the last couple races. They jump out, and then the crews from behind start to work and erode their lead.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, you pay too high of a price off that start. You pay for it later on because, you can't win a race off the start, but you certainly can lose one.
Right, and, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. You got so much fuel in your tank. If you burned too much of that fuel early on, you obviously know that we need it at the finish line because every one of these finishes come down to the last couple strokes.
Here we got Duke University in the near lane, lane 6, battling with Clemson in lane 5. Duke with a little bit of edge over them as we go back across. It was certainly Florida Tech, and Rollins had that second, but I'm looking at Virginia in lane 4 here that is right there with Rollins. Virginia only a few feet back of Rollins, it looks like, as they go across those buoy lines.
You know, I want to point out there, we had a great shot there. We're back now to Florida Tech out in the lead. And they've got 2 boats open water. They're really moving well.
FIT with 2 boat lengths of open water. Look at this, the crew swinging together here. We're taking a rating at 34 strokes a minute. That is in comfort zone, rowing full pressure, but opening up on the field.
Yep. You know, I did want to say we're going to slide back here to the field. You know, we've watched that Duke coxswain really changed the race, and you know they're right here in lane 6. Let's see if you can make it something happen again.
1,000-meter mark right here as we went from FIT back to the other crew is probably 2 boat lengths open water. They're just crossing the 1,000 here. It is Virginia and Rollins neck and neck. Virginia with the edge now. Virginia with a very strong third 500. They've shown it again and again, and they're doing it right now. They're throwing their power 20 or whatever you want to call whatever their strategy is out there at Rollins to see if Rollins can take it.
Yeah, and it is impressive how Florida Tech has moved out, and they are open water. They have just really walked away from the field.
At 33.5, 34 strokes a minute, right where they were, and they shifted in the settle, and just, well, what can you say? You got multi-links open water. That's pretty rare in any kind of grand final in the varsity events.
Yeah, and this is the A final, so these are the top programs, you know, and we've gone through 30-some boats to get down to this top A final. So Florida Tech right now, the pride of this event.
34 strokes a minute, University of Virginia over on the far side. I'm trying to get a rate on Rollins here if I can.
Florida Tech at 34 as well, just where you said a moment ago, in their comfort zone, moving the boat well.
Rollins only about 3 or 4, maybe 5 feet down on University of Virginia. Rollins may be making a move. You'll see strategy-wise, Virginia took a move right at the 1,000-meter mark, and Rollins possibly wisely waited a little bit until they were through with the move. Looks like Rollins now trying to cut back into that slight Virginia lead.
Yeah, and I'll say that in 4th place maybe is Duke fighting with Florida over there in lane 2. And, you know, I have a lot of confidence in that coxswain at Duke. I mentioned that again before. At the 1,500 meters, as you go through the video screen there, I think Duke will pull something out here to show here in the last
now,
500
FIT
meters.
has raised their rate of striking with that open water lead. They were 33.5, 34. Now they're 35.5, 36. They're coming into 300, 350 meters ago. It's about 30 strokes, 35 strokes. And we're going to see them throw this thing out to the wind. I know it. They've thrown that sprint out there just for trial earlier on. Let's see what happens here.
And Virginia looking to be in a solid 2nd place position. And here comes Duke on this lane 6. You know, I talked about them before. We're now starting to wonder who's going to be 3rd. We've got the far side Rollins, and I think Duke and Clemson moving side by side down the course. They could close in on that Rollins crew over in lane 1.
Yeah, this is the race for 3rd now, Brad. It is clear that FIT is going to take this all the way home, and now they're going up again. They were 34 in the body. They were at 36.
Yeah, here it is. It is
now
closing
FIT
up.
at 38 strokes a minute.
And looking sharp.
Making a statement here.
Yeah, they really look sharp. Okay, Virginia now is
at 40.
2nd, but look across. Rollins increasing its rate of striking. Rollins trying to get a 2nd silver medal out of the deal. Virginia being challenged by, here goes Virginia. Look at Virginia go up. They're rowing very well. Virginia moving very, very well.
4 boats open water. FIT Virginia with a half a length over Rollins College.
Virginia 37. Rollins across
and
3rd.
dead even with Duke.
Duke
and
Clemson.
Clemson, that's right.
What a great row for Florida Tech. Right from the first stroke, they opened up and kept moving, and they showed that they were gold medalists today. They're going to take home a trophy in the men's varsity 4. Very, very deserving.
See them, the congratulations going on out there. Wow, that was a good race, Brad. Good race.
Yeah, and it, again, you can see the fans here going along the shore, and it's really interesting to see all the things that are going on here as the fans are all along the shore here. There's cameras, there's families, all the teammates are along here. It really is enjoyable to watch the colors, and your bicycle's still on. And look down the shore of the tents. Those are the teams, and there's a lot of movement around, and what a glorious day we've had here. This is the 2013, SIRA started in 1967, so whatever number of years that is, it's been a long time. But Casey, you were here in 1971. That's 42 years ago. A lot of reminiscing over this. It's fun to be back.
Yeah. Now here was the SIRA Regatta as a rower. I definitely participated back in those years. But again, the early SIRAs were in other locations. They weren't here at Oak Ridge. And, of course, we found this course in the late 70s and kind of moved it here as soon as we came across this. This was just the perfect venue. But Kalijah Beach, Alabama was one. Savannah was at one. There were some other sites as well.
I rode at Stone Mountain in 1973 for the SIRA Regatta, and it was there short-lived. You know what was interesting about Oak Ridge, and I'll do kudos for Oak Ridge, I don't think they even had a rowing program when they moved the regatta here, but the city, Oak Ridge, just absolutely embraced the sport of rowing. They've set up this race court. The venue is outstanding, and now Oak Ridge Rowing Association and the SIRA administration, they work hand in hand to make just a fabulous venue for us, and this is really great.
Yep. We're coming up on the B final, the petite final, a women's varsity 8, and that should be starting any moment because we're right at regatta time right now at 11:28 when it's scheduled to go. In lane 1, Jacksonville University, again, far side of the course. Lane 2, next to them, Georgia Tech. Lane 3, in the middle, Emory, along with Wichita State in lane 4. Lane 5, University of Florida, and lane 6, closest to us, Florida Institute of Technology. And on the race schedule here, Brad, we see those numbers off to the side again, and those were the seedings of these crews when they came into SIRA. This is what the regatta committee decided where they would be, and you'll see, a seed number 6, a seed number 7, and a couple of 8s, and so they're falling right into the petite final where they were kind of seeded.
Yeah, and I think that's just a great congratulations to the seeding committee. If you look at the next event ahead on the program, the 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s are in that event. That's the A final, and what we have in the B final is the 6 and 7 and 8. Just exactly what they should be. So the seeding committee has done a great job of selecting who is really ranked and how they are ranked.
Yeah. All right, Brad. We're looking at if there's printed programs out there. There has been some lane changes. We've got some lane changes here. This is a women's varsity 8B final. We just called off the lanes, but that has now shifted. And here's how it goes. This is in lane 1, the far side of the course, Emory University. In lane 2, Wichita State. In lane 3, Georgia Tech. In lane 4, University of Florida. In lane 5, Jacksonville University. And nearest to us by the cameras, lane 6, Florida Institute of Technology. So if you have a program in front of you, the lanes are a little bit different than what have been printed. We are now coming up on this B final again. We're 500 meters in the course in the second 500, and I'm not going to make a prediction here, Brad. It looks pretty close across the field here. The only thing I see is possibly lane 4, which would be University of Florida, but I can't call it here. It's too close to call.
Well, I like four currently, and Florida Tech in 6. 6 on the outside lane. They look really solid. So let's look at that Jacksonville in the center there at lane 5 as well. So you've got really those. Casey, it's great. What a great looking race here. I got Florida and Florida Tech. I like actually as being the leaders on the outside lane, followed by that Florida crew maybe in 3rd, but it's so tight.
Wichita State in lane 2 definitely looks like they're up a bit on Emory that's out there in lane 1, but you come across closer to us in lane 4 would appear to be University of Florida, but I see again 5 boats that are close. I don't know if there's too much spacing between any of these.
No, there isn't, and that's an exciting race for these. And this is the women's varsity 8, the B final. So, I mean, what better race can you have? As it comes to the shore here, they're now just past the 1,000 meters, about 800 meters to go. You got Florida Tech on this lane closest to the shore. They are solidly in it. Jacksonville, you know, they're 2 state schools that know each other very well. Then you move over one position. You got University of Florida and Gainesville. These crews know each other.
Oh, yeah. They saw each other, what, a week ago or
2 weeks
at
ago?
The Florida Intercollegiate Rowing Association Championships.
But look at Wichita now. Wichita on that lane 2. Wichita is moving up in front of the 2 outside lanes, Emory and Georgia Tech.
Yep.
Georgia Tech and Emory sliding back. The rest of the field moving forward together.
I think Wichita has that lead. I would almost call it an open water lead, but I'm not going to be able to tell anything here on lanes 4, 5, and 6. Maybe even lane 1 over there. Emory in lane 1 also could be in contention, but it looks like you've got 4 boats here that are able to battle it out for that second position.
That's right, and Wichita is moving well, but I think Florida Tech has got them just by a bit, personally.
You know, I think University of Florida is the one that's currently in second. I think they've distanced themselves a bit on the lane next to them, which is Jacksonville. I actually think FIT in lane 6 doing a nice job of staying right up there.
Absolutely. As they come forward, you know, Florida with the orange blades, really telltale. Florida Tech with the red and white stripes on the unisuits. Those 2 crews, but you got to jump over and look at that Wichita State. That Wichita on that outside lane doing a great job. That's lane 2, Wichita, and they're moving well.
Yeah, and I had FIT earlier at 36. Now I've got Florida at also 36. I don't know what you're getting Wichita State
35 and a half.
35
so they all
and a half.
got room, but you know, Wichita is rowing extremely well, and I think as we get a better angle here, we're going to see Wichita out in front. Wichita is now moving extremely well. They're a length advantage over Florida. Florida is in 3rd on that outside lane. Emory is currently 2nd.
Yeah, I think you've got lane 1 over there. Emory is definitely in 2nd, rowing a little bit higher. Spring to the end. We're coming down to less than 10 strokes to go. It is Wichita. It is Emory. And I'm going to call
Emory at 33.
Well, I'll tell you what, it looks like Wichita State.
And Florida Tech trying to come
Florida
in
University
to
of
get
Florida.
4th. Jacksonville holding on to 5th. And that's Georgia Tech rounding off the field at 6th as they come across the field. That was a great race.
Good racing.
And we
good
didn't
racing.
talk about Emory as they came down here, but Emory, the sleeper on that outside, and we talk about that quite a bit, how Emory comes up and comes up from the outside and surprises us.
All right, Brad, grand final, women's varsity 8. Here we go. And they're off the blocks here. This is Notre Dame in lane 1, Purdue in 2, UC San Diego in 3, Oklahoma City in 4, Delaware in 5, and Vanderbilt in 6. This is the, wrong one.
Yeah, we're in the A final, one event back, Casey. What I've got is lane 1 is George Washington. Purdue is in lane 2, Kansas City State 3, Nova Southeastern in lane 4, Nova South Central Oklahoma in lane 5, and Oklahoma City in the inside lane closest to the camera in lane 6. So, again, we're going to gravitate towards the center of the race course, but this is the A final. There should be a lot of parity here.
Oh, yeah. You would expect to see a lot of overlapping in these boats. You get into these varsity finals here, and we're talking tenths of a second a lot of times as you get down to the end because it's just not going to be that much. The depth of these programs, we saw A finals, B finals, C finals, D finals. These boats are going to be all over each other.
Yeah, and, if you look at this is the top program, top crew of each of these schools. This is the women's varsity 8. They're #1 athletes, all competing at this level. And we've had all those B and C finals. So this is telling us they're coming from a very big field. It should get down to these are very, very competitive teams. So, again, if you're looking at your program, George Washington is in lane 1 on the far side, and Purdue is in 2. Kansas State, the center, and Nova you need to watch in lane 4. We've got Central Oklahoma in 5 and Oklahoma City in the lane 6.
Yeah, we're looking at wrong bow numbers, but looking across here. That is, I'm looking at K-State right now. That's in lane 3. Not with a K on that. That could be. I'm looking to blades here on the camera to see if that's Nova's blades.
What we have is some bow numbers that don't match up with their lanes, so we're trying to be very careful here. I think that's Nova and K-State battling for that 1-2 position.
I think you're right. Nova typically has white hats throughout their whole boat, and I see the boat on the far side. Not everyone has the white hats on, so I'm going to go right with you there. That is Nova Southeastern and K-State that are looking in currently the 1 and 2 positions with K-State with the edge.
Yeah, and as I look down the course, I agree with that statement, Casey. The K-State, I think, is the leader with Nova right on their heels. And then we go out from there, and lane 2 and 5 are, I'm going to say, battling for 3rd, 4th, and 5th and 6th are the 2 outside lanes. Lane 1, George Washington and Oklahoma State on the lane 6 are battling for that 4th and 5th position.
Yeah, Oklahoma City out there. You got the 2 Oklahoma schools out here, Central Oklahoma, Oklahoma City. You got a bunch of Midwesterns with K-State out there in Purdue. The only one from the South at this point is Nova Southeastern, George Washington being the Mid-Atlantic in the D.C. area.
34.5 for K-State. So they're in their comfort zone. They're going right by the 1,000-meter mark as we speak. And K-State, I think, the owner of the lead. But, Nova is a very, very smart crew. They're well coached. They have a very mature attitude about things. And you got to count on them being there at the end.
Far side of the course, Brad, is George Washington University that is making a challenge here as they are only about a quarter length down on K-State by what I can tell here, although, again, its camera angle can change that. But if you're watching the camera, you see that blue boat over there, GWU, in the moving up on the rest of the crews. Nova Southeastern now in the foreground. It looks like GW has moved a bit on Nova.
Yeah, we've got GW at 35, so they're striking at a fairly high rating as they go through the 1,000 meters. We've seen that go up and then come back down again. GW has I'm going to say a half a length lead over the rest of the field. I won't give them much more than that, but another crew that we got to pay attention to is that Central Oklahoma in lane 5. They're
absolutely. Yep.
They're in there, and you look across to Purdue. Purdue in lane 2 is there. So, you know, this is for top 3 positions to get medals. There's going to be a great battle here.
Yeah, and one of the battles I'll go back to was the Oklahoma, Central Oklahoma and the Nova Southeastern being Division II schools. This is for rankings for NCAAs from the region.
Yeah, and I want to say that Kansas State's lead has been eroded somewhat, and I think it's Nova that may be doing that. You know, I think it's about a half-length separation between those two, and then if you look right beside you, you got Central Oklahoma that's about, I'm going to say, a third of a length behind Nova, and then out on the outside there, Purdue and George Washington following up from there.
Well, I tell you, watching the camera angles here, it is Purdue and GWU, and you know, it's really hard to tell. I mean, look at these boats overlapping here.
Yeah, and you go to the outside now. I think boat that's really moving well is George Washington in lane 1. They're closing the gap on Purdue, and Purdue is closing the lap. Look what's happening here.
Yeah.
Kansas State, they're all moving right up and past Kansas State. Kansas State is scurrying right now.
Kansas State's legs are getting a little bit lactic. They can't make those legs go down any quicker, and these other crews have a little bit left here, and they're going by K-State. K-State put a little too much out too soon, it looks like.
George Washington's got the lead. Purdue
GW.
second.
Moving.
Purdue second.
Look at this here as we come across these women's varsity eights for the medals here, Brad.
Yeah, I got Purdue at
GW
38.
coming through.
Moving up and moving through. K-State rebounding a bit.
Purdue, K-State, Nova, almost in that order. Looks like it's going to be that order.
It's really a straight line at a diagonal, isn't it? About a 1-deck separation from each. 1 to 2, 2 to 3, about 3 to 4, about 1-deck separation all the way down.
Gosh, Brad, it's great to see racing like that. I mean, it just gets so close that again, every little stroke counts. You looked at K-State, put out all they had and held that all the way down the course and just couldn't keep their legs going at that rate or the length, and these other crews were able to pull them down. And back up the starting on the last 2 races of the day here. The men's varsity 8. This is the petite final. Crews number 7 through 12 in lane 1. Notre Dame in lane 2. Again, starting from the far side of the course, working towards the shoreline. Lane 1, Notre Dame. Lane 2, Purdue. Lane 3, UC San Diego. Lane 4, Oklahoma City University. Lane 5, University of Delaware. And in lane 6, closest to us, Vanderbilt.
Actually what we were going to propose, because for camera it would be awesome to have the slowest ones here on this side. We're actually going to ask that because for video you want those crews, the slowest side, to be on the far side. 3-4. Interesting. Well, yeah, the wrong way.
I'm guessing that's what they did.
Yeah. So, Casey, we've got these crews now, and this is the B final of the men's varsity 8. So this is 7 through 12 ranking for them, and it is important to figure out, these crews still want to figure out, if they're not in the top 6, how close are they to the top 6?
Oh, absolutely. Again, it's a race for time here because, you know, my goal anytime I was out of that grand final is to see how many people can I take down on time, and just to say I did it.
Right, and as you're looking at programs trying to move forward to maybe the conference championships and maybe the Dad Vale and some other races, these are important races for them, and they're in the B final, so it's going to be a flat-out race for them.
And speaking of flat out, we are flat out coming up on the 1,000-meter mark right now.
Yeah, and I don't see a lot of separation. Do you? I mean, this is what you want to see, but you've got that lane 4, maybe being the leader with lane 3 beside them. That would be for Oklahoma and San Diego in lane 3. But, you know, you start to look across, and there's not much separation. The only one that seems to be back is Notre Dame over in lane 1.
Yeah, that's a pretty good call there, Brad. I mean, you know, it looks like lane 1 and 6 might be slightly back here, but again, center of the course. Look at the flash of the white blades in lane 4 there. That's Oklahoma City, but sitting next to them in lane 3, you see San Diego. Again, these crews from out west, they don't come here unless they have things to show. Great competition here. That's why they travel so far. But Oklahoma City, San Diego, and also in lane 2, it looks like Purdue in lane 2 would be your 3 leaders again.
Right. I have 36.5 for that Oklahoma crew in lane 4. So 36.5. So they've already started to make moves. Listen to the crowd coming down the venue here. As you can hear them progressing down, the crew's really chanting.
Oh, yeah, and I got 36.5 for UC San Diego as well. See if we can, are you going to catch a Purdue one here?
I am going to get Purdue, and, you know, they're back a bit, but they're at 35. They got some room to go.
Lane 5, Delaware, also at 36. So all these crews running down the course. You hear us now in these finals, the petite finals and grand finals at crews at 36 strokes a minute. That's pretty much where you've got to be in contention to win these things.
Yeah, and I like right now, if you were going to ask me, I'd say Oklahoma is the one that's moving the fastest currently, and right next to them is San Diego. I think those are our 2 leaders. There may be a dead heat there, and then you've got the 2 beside them, Delaware and Purdue, fighting for that 3rd position.
Purdue now at 38 strokes a minute.
And that's very high for them this early.
Well, you know, you only got 300 meters to go. It's not that high. You know as well as I do. You can sprint from that far out. Some people will try it from 500 meters out, but it looks to me like Purdue is going to try and pull this off.
Yeah, and Purdue is doing a nice job. They are drawing even.
San Diego.
San Diego, Oklahoma sliding back to 3rd. It's right between Purdue and San Diego.
I think San Diego may still have the edge, but we got 15 strokes to go.
Look at San Diego go. Look at, they've just picked up the cadence. They've sharpened. They are rowing very, very well. Look at side by side. I got 41.
I got
San Diego.
38 for Purdue. 38 for Purdue. Trying to see what bow crosses the red buoys first. I think San Diego has the edge.
Yep.
I don't know. No, There goes Purdue. There goes Purdue.
Purdue's got it.
Purdue just jumped it.
Yep. Purdue by half a deck.
And it's Purdue.
And then here comes Oklahoma.
And Notre Dame in 4th.
Yeah, nice job by the Irish. That was very solid for them. Delaware coming across in 5th. And this inside lane of Vanderbilt finishing it out at 6th.
2, 3, 4, 1, 5, 6. In lane order.
Well, on the men's side, Casey, this is the race that everybody likes to watch. We just watched the women's races, the varsity first grand final, and this is probably the fastest race of the regatta, the men's varsity 8s.
Well, no doubt about that, but I tell you, recalling that women's grand final, how close that was and all the overlapping going on in there, it's just a spectacular day. And, you know, the water's just beautiful. There's just a tiny, tiny bit of ripple out here, just as good as it gets for a championship regatta like SIRA.
Yeah, and I want to take a moment to thank all the volunteers and so forth that have been a part of this. But yesterday we spoke a lot about the speed. You know, you saw Virginia, Florida Tech, and GWU, and you said, hey, they're out in front. And, you know, as they're sitting at the starting line here and you're watching on the video, you know, we could not compare their times too much because they looked like they all led their races. But when you looked at the times, they were really close.
Yeah, we've got to give the lane order here. They're ready to go. They're going to be starting any second. In lane 1, George Washington University. In lane 2, Florida Institute of Technology. In lane 3, University of Virginia. Lane 4, Jacksonville University. Lane 5, Temple. In lane 6, University of North Carolina from Chapel Hill.
Yeah, and here we have the number 1 seed, lane 3, Florida Tech. And George Washington and Virginia flanking them on either side. That was the number 2 and 3 seed, Temple, the 4th seed, Jacksonville, the 7th seed in lane 1, and UNC, the 9th seed. So UNC, nice job to move up and get into that.
Yep. So here they are. They're all sitting ready. The blades are square in the water. These crews are ready to go. And you can imagine how much bend is going into these oars, how much power is going into the legs of these oars as they jump off the blocks here, much like you see the gates come down. And here they go. Look at them dig into that water and jump on it.
The blades are. And they are really, really torquing. We talked about some of these crews being in the 210-pound average per person.
43 strokes a minute here. It looks like it was lane 3, which was Virginia, at 43 coming off the line. They'll do that for about 20 strokes, and then they'll settle into the body of the race, usually down to about 36 or thereabouts. And that is, in fact, lane 3. That is Florida Institute of Technology with that lane 3 marker on. Again, the bow markers may not be in the order, but as Florida Institute of Technology, it has that early lead.
That's really good for them. You know, we saw that in the men's varsity 4 for them. They jumped out of a lead. You know, Florida Tech, the #1 seed, you know, but their time yesterday in their heat, they led comfortably, but it was about 6 seconds behind the Virginia and GW. So interesting that Florida Tech has gone out that strong, but they like to go out strong.
And look at the camera angles here now. With a half a length boat lead, it appears that Florida Institute of Technology in lane 2. Don't look at the bow numbers because that's not going to do it. Now you can just see Florida Institute settle into it. 500 meters.
And then you've got the orange blades of Virginia right there beside them. You know, I think at this point, Virginia has not been tested. Well, those top 3 crews haven't been tested. They led comfortably each one of their semifinals.
I'm getting Virginia at 36 half strokes a minute. I caught Florida Tech at about 37. And this was going through the 500-meter mark. Look at all 6 boats now overlapping here. This is something that is just fabulous to see. All the power generated by these crews as they try to gain advantages, edges. Coxswain's looking across, playing offense here. No one's playing defense. It's all offense.
Yeah, and you've got Virginia and Florida Tech. You can see maybe a third of a length. Florida Tech is like 3/4 of a length out. Virginia about 2/3 of a length out on the rest of the field. But what a great shot there.
FIT at 36 strokes a minute with the lead. I would guess that Virginia is cutting into that lead a little bit. It was a half length early on. Now Virginia looks like they're down to about a quarter length.
34 for Virginia, so they're down a little bit. Under stroking, and that may work out well for them if they're conserving a little bit of energy. I know they're putting it all out, but you know that higher rating takes a toll.
Oh, it does, and you know, Virginia's well aware of that. Looking at the way the camera, it's hard to tell what the launches are doing, but it looks like the other crews may be sliding up a little bit on Florida Institute of Technology. 1,000-meter mark, I can't tell what's going on, but it's fairly close now. Where we had a half a length difference early on, now it looks like it's a lot closer at the 1,000. We'll see who makes what moves here as they go into this third 500.
I got Florida Tech at 37.5 now at the 1,000 meters, so they have taken it up yet again from the 36 that you reported a moment ago. So Florida Tech probably feeling some pressure, and they need to make a move and put themselves in.
Now I still got Virginia at 36 strokes a minute.
And there is no such thing
here
as
we
comfortable at this place.
Crossing the buoys, it is still Florida Institute of Technology with about a 3 or 4 seat lead. You can call it about a quarter or a third of a boat length over University of Virginia. Florida Institute of Technology at 37 strokes a minute on the far side of the course in lane 1, George Washington University. Now bow to bow with Virginia as they come up, and Florida Tech maintaining an edge, but oh my gosh, what a tight race.
Yeah, and I think George Washington actually making a little bit of move. You watch the bodies, it's George Washington making a move here on both Virginia and Florida Tech.
I agree. GWU is coming up on the field here. Florida Tech still maintaining an edge. It is half a boat length. FIT now answering and coming through with another move here. They're putting the second move on the field here, trying to hang on to that lead. Virginia now has come back through, put their bow back in front of GW as Virginia tries to make that move with 500 meters to go. It's FIT with a half a boat length and moving.
and I got Virginia at 36. So with 500, 400 meters in ready to go here. Virginia trying to turn it up a little bit.
And FIT now with almost a full boat length. They just planted a move on the field there and just about took another half a boat length. Not able to break free of Virginia, but still they opened up a few more precious seats.
Yeah, Virginia now at 38, so Virginia's turning it up. They know that if it's going to win, they've got to go right now. But look at Florida Tech respond. Florida Tech, the blade's still hitting the water strong, telling me they're still in control.
Virginia at 40.
Florida Tech
at 41. These crews are throwing everything they have out there. It's gold or no gold.
That's right. That's right. Look at Virginia again trying to go, but Florida Tech doing a great job holding them off. Does Virginia have another gear?
Virginia at 41.
Look at Florida Tech push away. Look at them push away. Florida Tech really doing a nice job.
Both crews over 41 strokes a minute as they go to the line. FIT with almost a full boat length lead. It's going to be Florida Tech, Virginia, and GW.
Great job for the Florida Tech program on that. Virginia challenged all the way.
And the arms in the air of exhilaration.
Jacksonville coming across in fifth. Jacksonville coming across in fifth, inside lane. UNC rounding it out at sixth. Well, as we look out over the cool-down area, you've got Florida Tech absolutely exhausted out there, but look at the smiles on their faces. They're high-fiving each other, and I think that just, here they go back into the rhythm of rowing away. Virginia, what great comrades. That was a great finish. Both of them over 41 for the last 250 meters.
I just watched the coxswain of FIT turn around and give the congratulatory sign to GW over there for a well-fought race, as they've raced each other back-to-back weekends here in a similar margin, 2.5 seconds, 3.5 seconds, something like that.
Yeah, and that's really fun racing. And those are the fastest boats of the regatta. And I want to thank everyone involved. We started at the U.S. Rowing, being able to do this streaming and working with the Association of South Intercollegiate Rowing Association Championships. I got to get through that. And the officials that gave us a regatta on time, safe, without any injuries. The weather participated very well, so I got to thank everybody for that. And the volunteers from all the way over at weigh-ins to the coxswains and dockmaster and all the people that are in charge of parking the trailers and so forth. Yeah. Casey, last words you have for the closing of this 2013 Southern Intercollegiate Rowing Association Championships?
Well, I just want to congratulate all the crews that came here today. I mean, they've spent the entire year or years getting to this point, whether it's the grand finals or whatever, and every stroke they took, every time they woke up at 5 in the morning to get to practice is all laid out right here. And tremendous sacrifices for these crews, to these rowers to go to school and put the kind of effort out here that requires to excel in this sport.
One thing that's going to be interesting, I think you're going to be able to find that these today's races and some of yesterday's races are archived on YouTube. So you can go on this youtube.com/user/US Rowing org. You can go on and you can re-watch these races. And some of the races we saw, the women's varsity 8, spectacular. The men's varsity 8, thrilling. And then there were some races that came down to the last stroke, and they were really, really fun to watch.
Oh, yeah, the whole day here. I mean, it's what it's all about to have a day like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad to be done, but boy, what memories are been cast. And to Casey Baker, I really appreciate what you do for the program and for the sport, and it's really good to have you beside me, and thank you.
Well, Brad, thank you. As Brad Nygaard standing next to me, a compatriot and a rowing comrade and competitor, and I'm sure we'll see each other again.
Yeah, probably a couple weeks. Thank you very much, Casey.
Right.